Whoa, let's lower that music. What's up, everybody? This is Francisco here for Sports News number 136. I'm joined by my good buddies Andrew and Charles once more, guys, and actually it'll be our last one before we take our normal 3 month break, and then we take a month break and then we move on. We'll be back by mid NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. Baseball will have actually started, so that's where we'll be when we come back. And yeah. So how are you guys doing?
Not too bad. How about you guys?
I'm effing tired. I've been up since 3:30, and I've had horrendous sleep on a plane. I had a middle seat today.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I lost this weight because that would have been much more uncomfortable. But yeah, this is my left arm aches, my right knee aches. Like I'm gonna sleep good tonight for sure when I'm in my own freaking bed. But man, I don't know how people do this with traveling every day on a plane. There's some people who do that. I don't know who they are, but they are crazy. All right, so as far as the show is concerned, we've got there's actually sports. We might actually talk about sports today, which is crazy.
That's what you think.
Yeah, well, we do have a French fry discussion that I do have planned.
Yeah, plus so much has happened. I should have taken notes. In the last 7 days, everything went to sports hell.
Yeah,
in a good way.
Yeah.
Sports euphoria going on. Minuses and dissecting.
Actual moves, actual things happening. You can point to any sport that you like, at least the North American ones, and be like, "Hey, something happened that I could care about." So that's what it is for me. I'm gonna go dive into the NHL trade deadline myself, and NBA is rolling on. Baseball is spring training's happening, a truncated spring training, but guys, the big free agents have all gone. They're gone, and the Dolphins are trying to win back my heart. I still don't believe in them. Doug is, of course, drinking the Kool-Aid, and we'll talk about that later as well. And then we got college tournaments. We've got March Madness, men's and women's, and we also actually have the Frozen Four tournament, men's and women's as well. So there's a bunch of stuff, and of course we're getting the run up to WrestleMania, right, Charles? So,
and that card's not even complete. So I'll tell you guys right now. I don't know if we're gonna do WrestleMania predictions in the cage today, or if I just might do a very long voice note, send it to you, and just say, hey, this is your special, off the key,
I do have some things in the works that I'm planning for off season for now. So put a pin on that idea, Charles, because it actually might relate to what I'm trying to do. Okay?
Pin is put.
All right. So Andrew, though, he's got his lasso out again, guys. Andrew, are you there, my good friend?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead. Go talk. Do your thing.
All right, so as Francisco alluded to, we are in college in the winter and the winter sport, collegiate winter sport playoffs season. Like you said, we got basketball, March Madness. You have the CBI, the NIT, the
NIT,
WXYZ. But forget all. Well, no, we'll discuss it later. I want to get to our guest here. So, two tournaments going on are the Division I Frozen Four for women's and men's. As we mentioned in our last show, I believe it was or 2 weeks ago, the women's tournament was underway, and we now have a champion. Congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes. This is, I believe, their first championship. This is their first championship in 3 appearances in the Frozen Four. Frozen Four, I know I'm calling it the Frozen Four, but really the Frozen Four is the Final Four. The whole thing is called the NCAA tournament. So they made it to the tournament 4 times, made it to the Frozen Four 3 times. This is their first championship. Congratulations to the Buckeyes. Their opponent, Minnesota Duluth, had a interesting path to get there. They had to go through a double overtime win over Northeastern. They were, I guess, the underdogs here because they were unseeded in the group. They were one of 3 unseeded teams. But they made it all the way, but fell just a goal short. Our guest this evening is the one and only JD Chambo.
There he is. There he is.
Anyway, our guest.
I just wasn't sure when I was supposed to start speaking.
Oh,
Just jump in. No lube. Just go for it.
So he is our resident college hockey expert. And so I guess let's start with the women's tournament. Now that it's over, what are your thoughts? How did it go?
So, I mean, it's definitely good to finally have a first-time champion for the first time in forever. I think really the big thing for me watching it was that the officiating was just atrocious in that it was non-existent, and I think that ended up favoring Duluth over Northeastern in that semifinal because there were multiple instances of just like very bad hits in a sport where hitting is more or less illegal to begin with that were just going completely uncalled by the officials. And not that you would know it from Twitter because all of like the Western hockey bloggers were like, oh, well, congratulations to Northeastern for playing like 80 straight minutes without getting a penalty. And it's like both teams are doing it. And it's Duluth that checked someone into the boards right before they scored what would ultimately be the game winner in that second overtime. So they should have been on the penalty kill. So there's, I think, a few people who are just a little salty about that. But I mean, outside of that, like, the teams that ended up making it, like they were all very good games, and for the most part, they turned out to be fairly evenly matched. And I'm just glad it was ultimately the Buckeyes that won, just so that like we actually can spread the wealth a little more. Because going into it, there were only 4 teams that have ever won a national championship. Duluth being one of them, the others being the obvious suspects: Wisconsin and Minnesota, and then Clarkson.
Okay, so I've got. And I'm posting the bracket up here, and we had discussed this before to preview it before we got to the Women's Frozen Four a couple shows ago. So first round, I guess, because we had an automatic bye into the first round four. So we had Quinnipiac versus Syracuse. They won 4-0 to move on to the next round. Then we had Wisconsin taking on Clarkson. They won 3-1. And moved on to the next round. And then Minnesota Duluth shut out against Harvard 4-0. And then that set up the next round. The quarterfinals. Yeah, basically quarterfinals. So that's when the Ohio State. I'm just going to use that since they actually earned it this time. They won.
Fired.
Yeah, well, Yeah, they kind of they made everybody want to fucking cheer for the Gators. That's just sad. So Ohio State winning 4-3 versus Quinnipiac, and moving on to the next round. Then you had Yale beating Colgate 2-1. Then Northeastern v Wisconsin 4-2, and then you had Minnesota Duluth beating Minnesota, the Golden Gophers, 2-1, which I said would probably left a lot of people in Minneapolis very salty, for sure, for Duluth beating Minnesota there. And then we had the actual Frozen Four, the Ohio State versus Yale, 2-1. These are all close, tight games, by the way. And then Minnesota Duluth beating Northeastern 2-1. I mean, they went on a big, gigantic Cinderella run, I would say, right? From they were unranked coming into it, and then they finally fell to Ohio State, who was number 1 overall in the tournament. But still, 3-2, a close game to finish it out. So that's the bracket from what I see here, and I'll try and look up for some highlights. But aside from the officiating, JD, how was your overall impression of the tournament this year?
I mean, I think the only remaining quibble I have is the NCAA's reasoning and expanding to 11 and not 12. So, because before this year, it was only 8 teams. And so you would have a lot of those quarterfinal matches be blowouts because you've got the auto qualifiers, of course, like bumping off some of these teams that would otherwise be in the top 8. But then, of course, like, you know, the league champions automatically get to go regardless. And so with the expansion, like, you like have these games that are all very close. And like, even in the first round with Quinnipiac Syracuse, yeah, the final score was 4-0, but that was still a pretty close game up until like late in the third when Quinnipiac finally pulled away by getting basically the insurance goal. But like they didn't even get on the board until halfway through the second period. Like it could have gone, that easily could have gone Syracuse's way if they had been able to keep up the shutout.
Yeah, or at least put up a goal.
And then like Wisconsin Clarkson,
yeah,
it was like a 2-goal difference. But like even Wisconsin Clarkson, it's like, yeah, like 3-1. But like that third goal came very late in the third period. Like up until that point, we thought there might have been a chance that one would go into overtime. And then as a result, you have far more competitive quarterfinals ultimately, like the Ohio State Quinnipiac game. That one also went into overtime. I think that one actually went into 2 overtimes as well. So like you have basically Ohio State in an actually competitive quarterfinal, whereas before this year, they would have been up against Syracuse, and it probably would have been a similar result to Syracuse's actual first round game where they got flattened, but the margins are a lot closer. Like you actually have these top teams that are able to get a chance. Like Duluth, I believe, was 8th in the overall seed table before entering the tournament. So had this been or 7th, had this been under the original format, they wouldn't have even made the tournament, and then they ended up in the championship game. So the changes are definitely for the better. The games are certainly entertaining and competitive. I think it's just NCAA, get your shit together and just add a 12th seed for next year, because you've got another league coming that's about to get their auto bid anyway.
That's what I was looking at when I looked at this bracket, and Andrew was telling me that it was an 11-team bracket. I'm like, wait, that's so weird. Why 11? why this random number out of everything and just make everything even? It doesn't really make any sense to me.
Yeah, so the reason is based on the actual proportion of teams when compared against the men's tournament.
All right, folks, this is Francisco again. So sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties on my end. I will get the guys back on. Oh, here we are. Okay, so you guys are back on now. So I've got this back on. So can anybody hear me? Anybody there?
Yes.
All right.
We all hear you.
All right, so this is it was pretty seamless for me to get on and off again. So I'm already restarting. We're gonna keep going. It's already happening live right now. This is the beauty of live. It's TV streaming.
Where they're hearing me telling JD I know nothing about hockey, and then Colgate, I'm a Crest man anyway, because those are like the behind the scenes, the greatest hits that I need to profit off of.
Mm-hmm. So all right, so now we're back in, and so where were we? Where did we leave off? Not even sure anymore.
JD was educating us.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure where I got cut off, but as for like 11 versus 12, so really the tournament expansion was motivated by 2 things. One is that there's actually a new conference of teams that have just moved up to the Division 1/Division 2 level that's about to get their auto bid. So the tournament would have had to expand anyway. But then also, of course, like after what happened with the basketball tournaments last year, where the inequities between those tournaments specifically were exposed, like the NCAA, of course, has been under fire, as they usually are, but specifically for like the inequities in the two, between
the weight rooms, the food,
the women's and the men's counterparts in the same sports. So basically, the reason for 11 is that based on the fraction of 11 to 42 currently women's teams versus 16 men's teams, or 16 spots in the men's tournament for 59 men's teams. Like those percentages are the closest to being like exact. And so basically they're going by the malicious compliance. Like we're going for like exact equality, but it's like, we don't necessarily want equality so much as we want equity. To me, it doesn't seem like 11 versus 12 makes that much of a difference, especially with these teams that are upcoming. Like the league, like the new league in question currently has 6 teams. They're about to get a 7th next year alongside that auto bid. And then on the men's side of things, you have like additional teams either restarting their programs after initially cutting them, or like brand new programs. In fact, Lindenwood announced just today that they are indeed officially going Division 1 in men's hockey for next year. So within the next few years, like you'll have 63. So it's like, so the number of teams is changing anyway. So to me, using it based on the percentage of how teams there are in current year doesn't seem to make much sense. Like 11 versus 12, I just don't get it. Like the only thing I can think of is if like they wanted to keep the number of at-larges consistent with the new HOG getting an auto bid next year, but like if that's the actual reasoning, then just say that. I think that would have gone over better because then people would have been like, well, okay, like at least that sort of makes sense. But they didn't, so now it's just like, well, is the number of at-larges going to shrink by one next year, or are they going to add another tournament berth and just make it 12 like it should have been?
So I'm just posted up an article from SB Nation because I'm trying to understand that, well, this has been something they've been calling for expanding the women's hockey tournament bracket, and they finally did it, but from the way that you are reacting, it seems like they didn't go, it made no sense to go with it this way and then just kind of delay the inevitable of just evening out the tournament regardless, as far as I can see it from here. And they're giving out reasons why it's to reduce travel costs and things like that, but yeah.
The reasoning that they gave made no sense. And people have already been on the NCAA's case for years about how they do the bare minimum when it comes to the women's tournament, to the point where, unlike with their men's counterparts, there were basically like almost every first round match would end up being an intra-conference matchup most years because it would reduce the amount of travel. Like there was one year where like Northeastern and BC were matched up, even though like Northeastern was like the third or fourth overall seed, and like BC had barely squeaked in, and so they should have been sent out west to play like Minnesota or Wisconsin, whoever was number one that year. And so they're like, well, no, like let's put them together, but that way like we don't even have to worry about a bus because it's like basically a subway trip. And it's just like, it's little things like that that have the women's hockey community like mad at the NCAA. And so then like, yes, they finally expand the tournament, and then they do so in a way that makes everyone question, well, are you doing this just to be performative, or are you doing this because you realize now that you should have done it to begin with anyway? It's kind of a mess sometimes.
Okay. So the disparities between men's and women's leagues in the NCAA continue on, essentially.
Yes.
All right. So now we're on to the men's tournament. So,
but before we get to the main tournament, we need to go back in time a little bit. Back in time to March 19th. It is the final of the... Which conference is it? The CCHA, the Central Collegiate Hockey Association. It is between the Minnesota State University Mavericks and the Bemidji State University Beavers. I could tell you what happened, but I'm going to let JD here explain because he's going to be able to say it so much better than I could.
Yep. All right. So I think a little bit of background is needed on how the NCAA tournament itself works to fully grasp what was at stake here, because it wasn't, of course, just Minnesota State or Bemidji involved in the fallout from this. So like other NCAA tournaments, like the conference champions like get automatic bids, and there's like a number of at-larges. Now, unlike what you might be used to with the basketball tournament, where it's like, yeah, like there's metrics that the committee might consider, but ultimately they can do whatever they feel like. With the hockey tournament, the teams are basically selected by something that's called what's called the pairwise comparison, which is like you take each team, you compare it with the other 58, and then you compare it based on their rating percentage index, whether they've played head to head, and whether they like their records against common opponent, like any opponents that they have in common. And based on how those comparisons work out, like you either win the comparison or lose the comparison, and then you're ranked in order of how many of those comparisons you win. Short version, it ultimately gets dominated by RPI anyway, but that's beside the point. So going into the weekend, you had UMass Lowell, Northeastern, and Ohio State sitting on the bubble, who were knocked out of their conference tournaments, but could still get in if certain results went their way. One of which was that Minnesota State-Bemidji State game, because Minnesota State was in the top 4 overall in the pairwise, whereas Bemidji was down near 30. So if Minnesota State is locked into the tournament regardless, Bemidji State needs to win and get in. And so like as night's going on, like teams are watching the results. Well, UMass beats UConn in the Hockey East tournament, so that secures Lowell's spot. Harvard ends up upsetting Quinnipiac in overtime of the ECAC tournament. That knocks out Ohio State. But by this point, Minnesota State had scored what appeared to be the game-winning goal in the CCHA tournament. And so Northeastern thinks they're safe because two teams that would have been in anyway won their conference tournament championships. Here's where things get dicey. So basically, CCHA game goes to overtime. Minnesota State scores what appears to be the game-winning goal. Officials review it, uphold the ruling on the ice of a good goal. And so, like, the officials end up leaving the ice. They actually end up leaving the building entirely.
Oh my God. I'm watching the replay, sorry.
They hand out the trophy. Yeah, they hand out the trophy, and like they're like handing out like the MLP award for the tournament and so on. And so like Minnesota State celebrating. Bemidji has vacated the ice and into the locker room. And by the way, like these are actually relevant details to what I'm about to explain. And so like, and then of course like the crowd starts to file out after the celebration. So like for all intents and purposes, the game has been rolled over. Everyone assumes it's over. Mankato retires to their, or Minnesota State retires to their locker room with Mason Cup in hand. But the ultimate problem was that it turns out the goal should not have counted. What happens next is that as all these celebrations are going on, like as the officials have vacated the ice, which again is a key point here, basically the healthy scratches, or like player who hadn't dressed for the game for Bemidji, sees like social media blowing up about how, well, the goal didn't count, like what were the refs looking at, like did they look at it, etc. So they take it to their coach and be like, well, look, what actually happened was that as the Bemidji goalie was trying to make the save, they had started to remove the goal from the moorings. That in itself would not have prevented the goal from counting, except for the fact that the puck, as a result, was able to slide in under the goal cage instead of going in through where the goal mouth. So the goal.
JD, if you let me just explain this part right here. So I've got the the video version of this podcast. I've got the video up right now, and I'm watching the replay. So what happens is, the skater is shooting the puck towards the net, and the goalie is trying to make a sprawling save, trying to cover the near side of the net on his end. And when he's doing that, he's moving the goal, and it just nudges up and down just a bit. You can see it kind of tilt forward just a tiny bit, and the shooter gets that puck to slide in underneath the goal, but not through the goal line, but actually outside of the net. Threw it on the outside in. It was pretty close to, I guess that's that end where the mooring is. But if you look at it like on fast speed, you wouldn't have guessed that it went through there. But like when you see it in slow motion, it's like, oh God, oh no, oh God, no. And yeah, like you said, you know, goals can count when they're lifted from the moorings, but they have to get through the actual goal mouth and the goal line, not from the outside going in. So that's what I have here.
Yeah, like the intent. Yeah, like the intent is to prevent the defense from being able to benefit from knocking the goal off the moorings, but not for the offense to be able to then magically score goals that shouldn't be possible, like just from a physics standpoint. So, but then ultimately the issue was that it was reviewed initially and it still counted. Well, so one of two things happened. The second of which was ultimately what the league would later claim. Either the officials just didn't realize what had happened because they weren't looking for it. They were just looking to see whether the goalie had somehow tried to interfere with things or whatnot, and whether it should have been awarded goal regardless. Or they just didn't have that replay angle in particular. So here's the problem. This gets brought by the Bemidji players to their coach, who then brings it to Don Lucia, the commissioner of the CCHA. Well, and this is well after the refs had left the building. Everyone else had basically cleared the ice and was in the process of leaving. And Lucia ultimately has the director of officials re-review the goal based on the new angles that officials on the ice didn't have access to, and decides, well, you know what? This shouldn't have been a goal. Therefore, like we need to resume the game because it's not actually over. But the issue with that is that at least one NCAA rule, and by which I mean from the actual ice hockey rules of the game, not the Division I manual, at least one rule was definitely broken here. As many as 4 were. The rules in question are 31-1, appointment of officials, which state that the on-ice official shall be the referees and linesmen, and the off-ice official shall be timekeeper, scorer, 2 goal judges, and a video system replay official. None of which are Don Lucia. So he has no authority to order the game to restart under any circumstances. Another rule, I need to scroll down because I want to get the exact text here. Where is 82.1 game intermission timing, which states in part that officials' duties and powers continue during intermissions and until all players have left the ice and entered the dressing room at the conclusion of the game. So the players had exited the ice, so the officials had no more say. There's Rule 88, which states that protests are not recognized or allowed, which arguably the Bemidji players were doing just that. And then from the replay rules, 93.6, allowable time for review, explicitly states, and this was in a memo that went out to all conferences earlier this year, according to other reporting, that video review must be initiated and reviewed prior to officials exiting the ice for the end of a period. Now remember, the officials hadn't just left the ice, they had left the building. So by rule, the game was over despite the bad goal. And so basically all hell breaks loose because, again, remember, Northeastern sitting there thinking that they're in because Minnesota State had won, meaning there was no bid fee filed at CCHA. But then because of this ruling, which is in contravention to, at minimum, Rule 93.6, if not the others I mentioned, Bemidji could have potentially won, earned a spot via auto bid, and bumped out a team that wasn't even involved in the game from the tournament. And so you had a lot of people arguing either way on Twitter, and a lot of it comes down to Eastern hockey fans versus Western hockey fans for the most part, because Don Lucia is a fairly beloved figure in the Western hockey community, something which is very apparent from the hagiography that Flow Hockey, who is the CCHA's media partner, wrote in their recap of the game, where they were like talking about how the Northeastern Hockey Vlog was spewing about how this was wrong, despite this article itself noting the same italics from the NCAA rulebook that Rule 93.6 says that this review should not have counted. And then it follows off by saying, well, the boys at Boston refuting the men in Mankato were pretty calm, all things considered, and basically just talking about how justice was able to be served. Now, I think you three of all people know the difference between like what's legal and what's right, and like the difference between law and justice. But you also need to have the context here that this is a goddamn hockey game. Like, no one is dying as a result of not following the rules.
I love how
and as well-intentioned as violating the protocol might have been, you're now opening a can of worms for admins to go back in after the fact and manipulate results all over the place. And a lot of people don't like that possibility being opened as a result of what happened here.
I mean, people are like, I don't know. It's funny how the extreme comparisons they're putting in. They're putting it in comparison to the goal in the crease call from the 99 Stanley Cup final. Like they're putting it in that era. I'm like, all right, guys, calm down. I'm reading this article. I'm like, whoa, guys, pump the brakes, pump the brakes real quick, guys. Come on now. But in the end, Northeastern still won.
Yeah, and it's. Well, like Northeastern still got in because ultimately exactly, what happened was 60, because like they finally resumed the game 60 minutes after it ended. And then Minnesota State ended up winning anyway on a goal that there was no doubt on 2 minutes into the restarted overtime.
Honestly, this is
I'm looking.
This is not the craziest thing that has happened in hockey with regards to tournaments. Heck, was it? I forgot. I think it was the Stanley Cup Finals between Edmonton and Boston, where I think their lights went out and they basically had to end the game in a tie and had to have another game to start. So weird stuff happens in hockey, guys. It's fun. It's a funny Canadian game, and Canadians like to put funny Canadian rules. So weird stuff happens. That's why we have goaltenders who are just regular dudes being emergency backups and all kinds of weird stuff. So this isn't exactly the craziest thing to ever happen in hockey, but at the same time, it's like it's to be expected. Expect the unexpected.
Yeah. And it's like it would have sucked for the game to end on an officiating error, but that happens all the goddamn time in sports. Like, there's the pitcher, Detroit Tigers pitcher, whose name is
Armando Galarraga.
Perfect game because the umps screwed. Yes, thank you. Because the umps screwed up on what would have been the 27th out. At at the time, there were people saying, well, then Commissioner Bud Selig should have stepped in and then ruled that no, because it was in fact an out, like it should have just ended on what would have been out 27 in the first, would have been the original out 27 in the first place, because it wouldn't have ultimately impacted the result of the game. But that wasn't the case because I think ultimately we accept that, yeah, officials screw up. And there are cases where you want to go back and be like, well, they should like either like change the result or like do the replay or whatever. But the last thing you want is for administrators to then be able to go back and be like, oh, well, this ticky-tack call shouldn't have counted because of X reasons, so we're going to avoid the result of the game or blah, 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 or whatever. Because, like, you don't want it to... Because, like, you don't want a system where people can go back and try to favor, well, particular teams or their league. Because while I'm not accusing Don Lucia in particular of doing this, like, his league could have easily benefited from restarting the game inappropriately, because if Bemidji wins, well, then that's a third bid for the conference that they wouldn't otherwise have had, instead of the two teams that they got in that they did. And so, like, you have all these knock-on effects that impact teams that are not even involved in the game itself, until ultimately you have to decide, when is the game over? And just accept that, yeah, these guys screwed up, either reprimand them or like fire them or whatever, or if there's like a rule that's stupid, then change said rule.
And honestly, I'm
in the off season, or clarify them.
I've re-looked at the replay, and even with slow motion and just like glancing at it, I'm like, I would have probably made that mistake. Oh, it looks like a good goal. Like it's so. The angle that they have for that camera, and mind you, this is a college hockey tournament, and they're not going to have the same angles that they got in the NHL during the Stanley Cup Finals. They're not going to have like 40 different cameras inside of the net and outside of the net to capture that. But even given the angle that they have, which is the best one is the one above the net behind the goalie, you look at it in real time and you're like, okay, that looks like a good goal. You slow it down a bit, and it still kind of looks like a good goal. Only when you actually see the angle and of the puck and where it's going through, and that's when you start to think, I'm not a geometry expert, but that doesn't seem like it's physically possible. So that's and I feel like it's an honest mistake by whoever reviewed that play and considered that a good goal. So I don't know. It's just making. I feel like it's an honest mistake, to be honest. I don't think it's as grand as the aforementioned Jim Joyce call with the Detroit Tigers pitcher. I feel like I would have made that mistake myself, just looking at it right there and then.
Yep.
All right. So.
Yep.
All right, so now we do have an actual...
And I think one more aside is that related... Oh. Well...
Sorry, we're on a bit of a delay here, JD.
But,
yeah, so sorry about that. It's like 5-6 seconds delay. So,
but yeah, like this ultimately does segue into the actual... Yeah, so like this ultimately does segue into the actual tournament discussion, but... Like, if you want to go back and like try to adjudicate, like the results after the fact, well, then you have the issue where Michigan canceled the game on Western Michigan back in December, citing bullshit health and safety reasons when they clearly had enough players to play, and that ultimately, the not playing that game may have given Michigan the #1 overall seed over Minnesota State. Someone actually went back and be like, okay, well, what would have happened had Western Michigan won? Well, then Minnesota State would be 1, Michigan would be 2. There's some reshuffling downfield, but like the same teams get in, but it could have impacted the matchups that ultimately got assigned. Although, amusingly enough, Western Michigan is 3 either way, so they of all the teams, they're the only ones that aren't impacted by Michigan canceling on down. But anyway, so yeah, so basically at a certain point you have to say enough is enough, and like the result is the result, and it's too bad if like a mistake happened, because you could go back to any of these games, flip a result, and wind up with sometimes drastic, sometimes not outcomes.
All right, so I've got the bracket up right now. We've got one game is actually happening at the moment. So we got North Dakota versus Notre Dame happening right now. They're in the third period over on ESPNU. A game that already happened already. Minnesota State beat Harvard, so they moved on to the next round, to the quarterfinals. And then we've got the rest of the bracket. So we got Western Michigan facing off against the aforementioned Northeastern. So that'll be happening tomorrow, followed by we got Minnesota versus UMass, which is happening tomorrow as well. And then later on today, we've already had Minnesota Duluth beat Michigan Tech, and they've moved on to the next round. And later on today, we've got Denver versus UMass Lowell. And then tomorrow, we have Michigan versus American International, and then Quinnipiac versus St. Cloud State. And that's the rest of the tournament going on from here on out.
Do you have any predictions, comments, concerns, feelings, what have you?
So like I was sick earlier today, or sick the last few days, so I actually missed much of today's earlier games. And fun fact, speaking of tournament format changes, this is actually the first year where there's an off day between the first round and the quarterfinals in each region. So that explains why there have been games already played, because normally the tournament would have started tomorrow afternoon, but now it's like you have game Thursday, Saturday in one regional, or one pair of regionals, and then Friday, Sunday in another. And so ESPN's like, oh, well, if there's only 4 games in a day anyway, we're just going to run it as a quadruple header. So basically the Thursday, Friday, when no one's watching, you have games starting at noon.
That's weird.
But from what I gathered from the chat in the College Hockey Discord, Minnesota State almost blew it because they were in control of it. Harvard basically scored 2 or 3 goals of an extra attacker and were like very, very close to actually getting an equalizer right before the final horn. So I would have, if I'm a Mavericks fan, I am very concerned right now, especially since the team that they'll be facing will either be North Dakota, who were co-regular season champions in the NCHC and a perennial power, or they'll play Notre Dame, who actually swept Michigan in the regular season. So I think whoever that was currently level. I think North Dakota would ultimately be the favorite to come out of that region. Going over to the West, I honestly don't know. Like, I would have put my money on Denver, but then they kind of stumbled in the Frozen Face-Off, and I'm pretty sure that they were, they lost to Duluth last weekend. So I think Minnesota Duluth might actually be the favorite there. Like, I don't really have much faith in UMass will be getting past Denver to begin with, especially since that regional is in Colorado. So Denver has the built-in altitude advantage. Excuse me. And then going to the other regionals, I don't know. I think I would favor Minnesota maybe coming out of that Worcester regional. I mean, Western Michigan has had a far better than expected season, but they've also kind of been a bit inconsistent at times. I think they beat Northeastern, but I wouldn't bet on them getting past whichever Minnesota or Massachusetts wins that other first round game. And of Minnesota and Massachusetts, UMass's problem is that they have a above average goalie, but they don't really have like great goaltending. And so if Minnesota can overwhelm the UMass defense, I think the Gophers would take that one for sure. And then with that remaining regional, I mean, Michigan, I think, is a prohibitive favorite to win the entire tournament just because of how much talent that they have. But they've also been so inconsistent all season. I would have written them off as the first round exit, except they got matched up with American International, who, while they're capable of giving top teams fits and have actually had a string of upsets recently in the NCAA tournament, I don't know that they would be able to realistically get much offense going against Michigan, and so I think that would be the difference there. Quinnipiac, I think, is overseeded just by weakness of how the ratings percentage index works, because the ECAC has just been uncharacteristically weak this year due to 2/3 of the conference not playing last year due to shutting down over COVID. And that's the league where all the Ivy hockey schools play. And then you also had RPI and Union, who are basically wannabe Ivies itself, ended up following their lead. And so those teams ended up losing a lot to transfers. And so while Quinnipiac is a solid team, I don't know that they really should be a 2 seed. And so I think St. Cloud will end up winning that one. And then of St. Cloud and Michigan, I don't know. I mean, Michigan, of course, could be anyone on a good day, but I think they're due for another off day, and so I don't think they get out of the region. Like, I have seen this too many times with my own with my own team at BU before, where it's like you've got this like very top heavy, very talented team that gets run over in the actual NCAA tournament by teams who have actual experience because they're not replacing everyone every year. So that's my take on that. I think overall, I mean, I didn't actually submit a bracket ahead of time, but I don't know. I think Minnesota would actually be my pick to win the whole thing. But we'll see. I'm usually wrong on these things because, one, anything can happen in a single elimination tournament. And two, like, just how the teams end up matching based on the pairwise can lead to some very interesting matchups. But yeah, I think that, but yeah, with Minnesota, I think they should get out of their region because I think they have a fairly weak 1 seed. And then basically I would pick them over North Dakota or Notre Dame. So it really depends on who they end up meeting on the other side of the bracket. If it ends up being Michigan after all, then there was last weekend where Minnesota got pantsed at home in the Big Ten tournament championship. But I think overall this season, I believe they ended up splitting the regular season series. So on neutralized, I would still favor Minnesota.
Okay. Is there anything more, Andrew?
I think that's it. I mean, JD, is there anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I think the only other thing to mention is that, yeah, like the games through Saturday's regional finals are almost all on ESPNU. There's one game tomorrow in primetime that's on ESPN News instead. And then all of the other games from Sunday's regionals through the conclusion are on ESPN2. Though there's also a week off between the regionals and the Frozen Four, because of course, like, they don't want to have the Frozen Four and the men's and women's Final Fours in the same weekend. So the championship weekend isn't until April 7th and 9th.
Okay. Oh, and I guess before you go, this will help us segue into our next segment anyways, and we just want to know your opinion before you hop off. What's your favorite fast food or burger chain French fries? Which one's number one?
Why are we doing this to him?
Because Charles,
I don't want to hate nobody.
Exactly. You're the reason why I'm asking this.
Oh, well, I would honestly say McDonald's, even though I know that's like a very unpopular answer. But like, no, like
It's your amount of culture.
Just prefer like the thin cut fries and like the flavoring from their cooking process. I feel like most other fries are either too thick or too bland somehow.
Okay, see, something very important that we needed to know. That's all we wanted to know.
All right.
Okay, well, thanks for coming on the show, and of course, Andrew, thanks for having him on.
Thanks, JD. We appreciate it.
Hi, JD.
No worries. Take care.
You too.
Okay, this Discord thing is actually much easier than the Facebook thing. We pop in, pop out, things like that. I mean, I reconnected to you guys much faster than I normally did. So, the technical difficulties. My computer hasn't crashed again, so I don't know. It might have been the PS2 title that I put on in the background. Some emulation's still not 100% perfect, everybody. Sometimes things go wrong, and I'm over here trying to put on, a great show and everything like that. But you know what? Let's transition into this, guys, because Charles is threatening to end friendships, and we have to talk about this. So,
I'm not trying to end friendships, but it goes back to my problem with humanity. We are gifted with intellect, and we are gifted with emotion, and sometimes our hearts choose what our heads tell us is wrong. And sometimes our brains choose what our heart tells us we shouldn't go with. And when it comes to a lot of food materials, I find there lots to be inner contradictions, inner hypocrisies. And then I also find out there's a lot of psychopaths out there that like foods done in a particular skill or fashion, boys. And what I find is also some people also like to do the whole like, you could do this, but we'll do that. And they don't want to make a decision. I understand. It's your life, your call. Stand up or enjoy the fall. That's from Junip. Great band. Listen to them. But for every person who's like, oh, Nightmare Before Christmas is both a Christmas movie and a Halloween movie, I hate people like you. We got that Twitter feed. I'll lead into it to allow you to lead into it. We got the Twitter link of, was it I sent it or you sent it, Francisco? But what is the best fast food?
I retweeted it, so here we are. It's on the video version of the screen, but we're gonna put it's 9 different establishments that they've put up on the board here. Now we could go.
I've had 8 of the 9, so I can only comment on that. I cannot.
All right, so we have, these are the contestants so far. We have Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Arby's, Wendy's, Burger King, Five Guys, Steak and Shake, Whataburger, and Checkers/Rallies. All right. So, God, where do we? Who? Andrew.
I want to hear Andrew. Anytime it's food selection now, from now on, Andrew, him.
Because guys already know I'm a psychopath. So.
Oh yeah, I'm expecting you to say Steak and Shake. I'm gonna stab you in the eye.
Let me see what the list is. I forgot what it was already.
It's on the screen. It's also on our Sports Goofs Twitter page. But once again, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Arby's. Okay. There we go. Okay, he's got it.
And let me guess.
There's two options. I think 2 is fair, right, Francisco? Or do you want to do 3?
I can choose.
Okay. How about this? All right, how about this? Your number 1, your number 2 if you can't get your number 1, and the worst one on the list.
Yeah, okay, I'm definitely about this.
Okay. Well, I've never been to Whataburger, so I can't choose 8. I'm going to defer judgment there.
Yeah, okay. How many of us have actually been to Whataburger? I've been in a region that's had a Whataburger, but I haven't had it.
I haven't been in a region that's had a Whataburger since I was 9 years old, and I never went.
Yeah, exactly. So let's remove Whataburger. We have no opinion on it right now.
Okay. Now one other question: is this when it's at its best?
Oh my God! You knew exactly where my brain was going.
Is this when it's at its best, at its worst, or somewhere in the middle?
All right,
I mean, it's really going on your pleasantries because that's why it's going to be your top thing. So sometimes it might be at your best. That's my contingency when I speak. So you'll see why.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that these are fries at their best.
Yeah. And then there's going to be one that we pick that we hate.
Right. Goodness. I mean, Steak and Shake is probably the lowest on my list.
Well, Steak and Shake in general is as much as
Nasty.
there's a
appeal is the diner aspect.
That and the fact that they have steak burgers, but the thing is they're also more expensive. And there's a video from Company Man on YouTube. If you watch his video, they're in a decline right now. So there's not as many of them around. I've had them, of course. They've got the shakes, which is their other thing, right? But they're not at the same, I guess, density across the country.
Do we have a uniform place that we can replace Whataburger with that does fries? That's not
it'd have to be a place that we've all been to. And you've got
we don't have to add in. I think there's a heavy selection, but if anybody's had White Castles, because I feel like a crinkle fry ought to be mentioned.
I've never been to White Castle. Let's just leave it. It.
Yeah, White Castle is a very much more northeastern type of thing, especially in New York.
Let's just leave it blank. So now, if you had asked me this question, I'm kind of working my way backward because I can definitely say what is my least favorite. If you had asked me,
least favorite, yeah.
If you had asked me 6 months ago, give or take, I would have absolutely said Wendy's without a doubt. But I'll give them props. They introduced a new fry, and it's actually not bad. It's not terrible. It's pretty good. It's not my favorite, but it's a lot better than the way it used to be. So that's why it's no longer my bottom. That's where Steak and Shake will go. Goodness. Holly. I think when they're at their best.
We're gonna have to add a clock now, like the draft. You're on the clock. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, do the Jeopardy thing. But and in this Jeopardy thing, you gotta make a decision.
You get two options, man.
Yeah, you get a 1A and a 1B.
I think my 1B would probably be Burger King.
Let him speak. Let him speak. Okay, so that's your 1B.
I don't see no chicken fries on that.
But those are chicken fingers.
Burger King has this good mix of amount of fry. You know, it's not too thin, not too thick, and they salt it up pretty well. It's a tough decision because I could, if I had three choices, I would put, well...
No, you get two, man. You can't, don't be that person.
I know. You know what? I'm going to change my 1B. I'm going to change my 1B.
Don't let peer pressure get you either. You be you.
Well, when you said ugh, that's tough.
I'm contentious. Like, you're not going to agree with my stuff. It's okay.
Andrew, we knew what we were getting into when I brought up this conversation. Yeah. So go ahead. Listen, and watch again. I'm a psychopath, so we don't know what I'm picking. Yeah. Right? Whatever you pick. Oh, okay. Well.
So I'm just going to pull the trigger. I think my 1B is McDonald's. And my 1A is Chick-fil-A.
Okay. All right, so you picked your worst, Steak and Shake, and then your 1A and 1B. All right. Now who
I want to say this. My 1A and 1B are really freaking close, and I would am willing to swap them depending on how I'm feeling that day. Because I had McDonald's recently, I have not had Chick-fil-A recently, so it's kind of like a flip flop. But yeah, that's my 1A 1B.
All right, who do you want me to go next, Charles, or do you want to leave yourself for? I don't know. How do you want to do this?
How do you think my personality is going to react?
I feel like if you know both of our opinions, your opinion will be a lot more demonstrative. So I'm going to go with mine. Okay, and I feel I've got an opinion on pretty much everything here except for Whataburger, because once again I haven't had it, and then you have like other fringe places like you got BurgerFi and Shake Shack and Zaxby's and things like that. So, but they're not on the list. And Zaxby's, you can make an argument, is, I don't know, fast casual? I don't know. There's all kinds of things. But, so if I'm going to go with the worst one on this list here, the worst one, I can't even remember what Steak and Shake fries taste like. That's the thing. Like, and they look entirely super thin, right? They're probably the most thin of that's there. So, but I can't remember what, so I feel like I can't even make an opinion on them because I have no opinion on them because I don't remember anything about them. So I don't know if they're worse or if they're decent. So we're just gonna remove that from there. Checkers and rallies, I don't mind the seasoning on it. You know, that's they got some type of seasoning there, and I mean it's all grease and it's all heart attack anyways. So if I had to go with consistency, and this is what I'm basing my opinion on, Charles, is consistency. Because you're talking about at its best. I'm talking about I can go to
at its worst.
I can go to a place in Florida, or a place in Wisconsin, or a place out in Colorado, and this is what I'm going to get consistently across the board. Because there are some fast food places that it's like, oh, that's the good Burger King. Oh no, that's the bad Burger King, So I'm just gonna go with an average consistency here. And man, I do not like Burger King's fries. I don't. From a consistency standpoint across the board, they made a good change, I don't know, way back in like 2002 or something like that to their fries. And I thought they tasted fantastic back then. But then they made a change to it, and whatever change they made to their fry formula, I feel like, for me, it's not really about the salt factor, to be honest. It's real about that potato consistency. And I feel like a lot of times when I eat a Burger King fry, it's not well done enough, where I'm tasting the potato that's a bit too raw in a sense to me. Like, I don't know. I feel I like a good crispy potato. I like a good, it doesn't have to be completely well done where it's burnt and all that stuff. Not like that, but a little medium well cooking on that. And Burger King, feel like whatever machine that they use doesn't do it justice. It doesn't do a good job of it. So I'm gonna have to go with Burger King at the bottom. Wendy's, I haven't tried the new fries as much, Andrew, from what you've said with the formula change, so I can't really base my opinion on it. And as far as my number one, guys, and this is gonna be a huge surprise because I keep trashing on this place, where I'm gonna go with Chick-fil-A. I'm going with Chick-fil-A with the fries. Their chicken is overrated, but the fries, I feel like I haven't had a bad one from them. McDonald's is fine. McDonald's is like the Mario of French fries. It's an all-arounder, right? But of course, you got to get to it before it turns into cardboard. But I would have to say, number one is Chick-fil-A. Five Guys, I like them, but I always feel like I'm going to have a heart attack after I eat their fries. And then Arby's is almost a little bit of a lesser factor of the Five Guys factor, which is like, I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack afterwards. But they're fine fries. Arby's, and because of the curliness. Maybe it's the novelty of the curly fries. And it might be the thing with Chick-fil-A. But I feel like the way that maybe the waffle fries give me that crispiness and consistency and well-cooked factor that I like. Because look, I'm not a guy who needs a ton of salt on my fries. Put it lightly. That's fine. I don't want to get all that sodium, all that water weight on me. But yeah, Chick-fil-A, surprisingly number one for me on this list. But their chicken sandwiches are overrated. All right. So, all right, Charles, here we go.
Excuse me, I'm just picking my jaw for a second. I'm not surprised by Andrew on his favorite. I'm surprised a little bit yours on your favorite. I knew you were going to trash Burger King. My worst, no debate, is Steak and Shake. Like, it's not good. They're piss poor shoestring fries. They have literally no flavor or taste to it. They're too thin to be potatoey. Every time I eat there, I get sick. They're not enjoyable of a restaurant. I don't like them. Don't sponsor us. I don't care. Don't call. Don't call. Plain and simple. 1A, 1B. Because we're talking about at its best. At its best, McDonald's fries, when they're hot and they're salty, when they're not trying to be healthy, when you want that either for 11 a.m. burger. And I don't eat the burgers at McDonald's. Really, the only time I eat McDonald's is when I'm hungry and I'm driving back and it's late and it's like 12 in the morning. If I'm coming, like when I got out of the Batman and it was like 11:30 and I was dying and I was stuck in traffic. I got 2 McChickens and those fries, man. And yes, they turn dangerously terrible right after, but I think you can make the argument that all these fries turn dangerously terrible after some time has passed, because there's a rule of thumb when it comes to fries and fast food eating or fries and restaurant eating. Fries, couple bit first, bite burger, fries, couple first, finish burger, eat the remainder of fries if you want to eat the remainder of fries. At its best, it goes to McDonald's. 1B, and this is why I'm kind of insulted. Well, what's your other pattern? I won't attack anyone's pattern of eating.
Oh, I'm just saying. I mean, you grab the fast food and you're eating the fries along the way when you're driving back home. You know,
that's also easy, yeah. But that's always great. You know, like there's the fry tax with your family. If you had fries, mom, dad, uncle, aunt, whoever, you know, you gotta go for that. You with the boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you gotta get the value meal, stuff like that. You hate yourself a little bit for McDonald's, and then you're never. Here's the thing of why you should love McDonald's fries. You're never more disappointed when they're not as salty as they should be. Right? You ever got those like motherfuckers? You know, there's something about it because we are.
All right, so we're back again, and the computer crashed again. I feel like it's a Discord app that I just downloaded, so I feel like it's that. But Charles, Chick-fil-A and or the other burger corporations.
No. So it is McDonald's is the 1A, and then Five Guys. I don't understand why everybody you want to die afterwards. Great, because you pay $3.99 for a small bag, and they give you like a whole bunch of it in the bag.
I didn't say I didn't like that. I didn't say I didn't like it.
Yeah, I'm going in quality and texture and consistency, and they're actually kind of good reheated as well. And I also give them to my dogs as treats. So I like it because it doesn't taste the same. The other stuff that I'll go through on is I like Arby's, but I don't eat Arby's enough, and their fries aren't the driver for me. And sometimes they're too crispy despite being curly fries. We already know I don't like steak shake. I agree with you 100% on Burger King. So here's the thing about Burger King. I will tend to order the onion rings. And if I'm ordering onion rings instead of your fries, that's saying something.
Their onion rings are very good.
Very good, very good. Wendy's, I had Wendy's the other day. They're fine. But you don't want to eat the whole thing. You want to eat like 7 of them, and that's it. Here's the thing about Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A ain't special with the fries as you think it is, because you're usually dunking it in something. Either the Polynesian, the honey, or the barbecue. Because that's why they get you on the chicken nuggets and the fries, and specifically why you have it there. It's the same reason of how you get chicken nuggets at Wendy's. You dip your fries into it. McDonald's fries, I don't need any additional dipping. Because they really don't offer it. I can eat that solo. Because when you have Chick-fil-A fries, because you want to know why I know I don't like Chick-fil-A fries as much about the dunking? Because what the hell does FIU buy every time during exam season? Chick-fil-A. And are we ever the ones who got it fresh off the boat? No. But we were poor and we were hungry, and instead of turning tricks on 8th Street, I would get my leftover meals for days on end at FIU. And so I was belittled to just crunchy old fries. And here comes the other hot controversial take. When you take away Chick-fil-A without the dunking sauce, and you have to have it a couple hours later, I'm better off buying the frozen bags at Walmart or Publix and just heating them up in either the microwave or the oven. It is adequate and it's fine, but I love waffle fries. Have you ever had poutine? Most waffle fries are in the poutine. I love waffle fries when it comes into it. But with Chick-fil-A, Your chicken's overrated. Your shakes are good. I'm not going to fight you there. I love a good milkshake. I'll sell out anywhere for milkshake. But your waffle fries are only really as great as it is because you always have an ass ton, like a J-Lo ass ton of Polynesian sauce and everything in every bag. McDonald's is like, you don't need no sauce. You got that salt, baby. I'm like, I got that salt, sugar. Thank you. And I eat that. Nom up in here.
Okay.
Now, Checkers fries is okay, but here's the problem with Checker fries. Is it me or after some period of time, they just kind of lose flavoring in the middle? You guys know what I mean by flavoring in the middle, right? You just bite it and you're like, okay, fine.
I mean, they most likely it's how they whatever seasoning they put on top and they're shaking it on top and it doesn't make it to the bottom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you see all the specks and stuff of all the spices and seasonings that they have on top.
Let me throw you a curveball on Checker fries, though. So there's regular Checker fries and there's a special loaded Checker fries. Remember when they have it with the bacon ranch and cheddar?
Oh, but that's
for the additional $1.
But
is it not fries?
It is, but I mean, you're adding something to it. Much like I'm talking about the fries naked, because that's what I mean. Like,
well, then you really just. Oh, all right. Then how do you subscribe to my Chick-fil-A theory? Because then if you only like dunking it.
Honestly, I'm not dunking the Chick-fil-A fries a lot of the times because I.
So you're a psychopath, all right?
I calorie count, guys, and sometimes the condiments.
You're basically pro-Texas right now. Yeah, okay, understandable.
Sometimes the condiments don't belong in the fries, and sometimes they go on the sub sandwich. You know.
You don't believe in women's rights and civil rights and trans rights because you eat Chick-fil-A without the sauces. I understand.
Actually, I do it in protest.
But that's my feelings on the fries, because we're talking about at its best. Because if everything was bad, we wouldn't recommend it anymore. In that sense.
Let me. I want to say this.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit unfair that Francisco changed his perspective to what is the best on average.
Well, I like you guys.
On average,
technically, you changed it.
But that's my perception of what I think of at its best. Because I just feel like it should be a consistency all across the board, because that's what the chain restaurant formula is supposed to be about.
Let me say this, gentlemen.
Because if
we're talking about consistency,
okay,
Chick-fil-A is not one of my favorites.
And what is?
Hold on, I have to look at the list again.
Cracklin' Oat Bran.
Right.
Cracklin' Oat fries.
Here's the thing.
Hardee's. I'm like, I've only been to one Hardee's in my life, damn it.
Because here's the thing about Chick-fil-A's fries. Once in a blue moon, once or twice a year that I have it, which is not that often, but every couple of times, their fries will be on point. But every other time, they're lukewarm, undersalted,
and that might
not that good.
That might be actually a problem with their freaking whole, their what is it? Their marketing strategy of having long ass lines for no reason whatsoever. And I feel like there's a city that was suing them for their long ass drive-through lines, because there's no reason that their lines should be that long. Every other place, burger place, and fast food chain out there, and I'm over here trashing on Chick-fil-A again. They're never going to sponsor us, guys. So they're just not.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I know. I am too.
But
it seems like they do it on purpose, much like how people accuse Nintendo of holding back on amiibos and certain things on purpose to kind of drive up scarcity and make it look like something's more popular than it is. But Nintendo's actually good. I feel like the same thing with Chick-fil-A and their whole business model. I feel like they could act more, because they show videos of them with like a machine that carries the bag from one end of the store to the other and all that stuff. I'm like, all that shit, and yet your lines are still fucking long and you're not efficient whatsoever. So something is wrong. And one of my buddies is actually has been working at Chick-fil-A since he was 16 years old, and he's probably gonna fucking hate this. But dude, what you gotta fix that shit. So, anyways,
but so now I want to say this: if we're going with Francisco's methodology of what is the best fry, I do have a different 1B, because McDonald's, regardless, is just primo no matter what. Even when it's at its worst, it's like pizza and sex. No matter how bad it is, it's still good.
I've had bad pizza.
You've never had bad Little Caesars, man.
I've had bad pizza, and I would trade it for bad sex.
Francisco in the background. I've never had a threesome. That's the callback right there.
Well, yeah, that was a.
But
I would trade good pizza for good sex, though.
If we're talking about averaging, McDonald's is still number 1A, but my number 1B would be Five Guys.
Goddamn right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can.
I can agree with you there. Yeah.
Because listen, you can always. That was my tough choice about going with Chick-fil-A, because when it's good, it's fucking good. But it's never like that. It's never that good. But if you're talking about dependability, like, listen, I love McDonald's sweet tea. It is the bomb. But as you mentioned, on an unrelated thing, there are certain locations where, go there for good sweet tea, don't go there for bad sweet tea. And even sometimes you'll get really bad sweet tea from what you think are good locations. It's unfortunate, but they're the only place in town that's fast food that serves that good of sweet tea. So, if you're looking for dependability, though, Five Guys, no matter where you go, you could go in the middle of nowhere, or you could be in the middle of a major metropolitan city. If you're looking for dependability, McDonald's and Five Guys, that's the way to go.
This is a sports show, everybody. Okay. Oh man. Oh, hold on. Let me look at the time. I haven't been keeping track of the time. This has been one of our more hearty discussions, and I'm very happy about it, to be honest. Okay, so where are we with this? Hold on. I'm trying
you guys seem to have a lot of food-related discussions without me. I want the remainder of this show to be that, because I want. More than that, I want to see what you guys think of my alter ego. I want to see who you think I am behind the scenes.
I do want to get to that, but I still do want to talk about the trades and stuff that did go down. Yeah. We can pin that towards the end of the show if you feel like it.
We have demographics. Our people who are sports fans. We like talking about sports. And
I'm running off of a bunch of double stuffed Oreos for the rest of the night.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could create an offshoot, sports goose called Culinary Cucks or something, and then there you go.
So I do want to. Why do I have this as the cage of Charles this entire time? You see, this is how tired I am, guys.
I mean, because I brought y'all into the cage of fast food eatery. I told you guys. Remember Spider-Man? I got you for 3 minutes. It's happening.
All right. Well, and I feel like we're at the halfway point because of the technical difficulties and everything like that. So we're just gonna say that we're gonna move to the word from non-sponsors, people, places, concepts, what have you, that we've been enjoying over the last week. And I'm gonna go first, guys, because I feel like you'll kind of know where I'm going with this already, given the events of the last couple of days for me. So, guys, for the first time in a long time, I traveled for work. It's been a while. It's been more than 2 years, actually. And I do miss it. It is something that I really did enjoy way back during the normal times. But now things are getting better, I guess. But at the same time, things are. I'm not traveling as much, and I feel like in the future it's not going to be as necessary with the travel. So I guess I enjoyed it for a couple years, and now things are just going to be different from here on out. However, I did enjoy my trip, and I'm gonna My non-sponsor is the place that I went to, and it is Albuquerque, New Mexico. So Albuquerque, New Mexico, guys, it's the place where Bugs Bunny always seems to get lost when he's traveling from one place to the other. Always makes a wrong turn at Albuquerque. It is also the home of the Isotopes, who got their name from an episode of The Simpsons where they were going to relocate the Springfield Isotopes on over to Albuquerque. And yeah, city's old. I visited. My flights got delayed and forced me to spend another entire day there, which allowed me to go explore the place. You know, it was founded in 1706, old Spanish colony, lots of interesting. I don't know what the correct term for their architecture is, but not a lot of tall buildings, so to speak. Very much high. It's considered high desert because it's a desert region, but the altitude is super high. I think it's like about like 5,000 or something odd feet above sea level. And I haven't been that high above sea level, I don't think, in my life at this point. So I really did feel the altitude because I walked around a bit, but I started to get really tired towards the middle of the day after I had walked around and looked at stuff. And it was cold, guys. It was super cold. It was like in the 30s and 40 degrees over there. So I was semi-dressed for it, but I wasn't prepared for it to be that cold. And, of course, we're from Florida, so, yeah, that's not really the best conducive weather for me. But I did enjoy the city. I visited the Isotopes Park. I saw the New Mexico Lobos football stadium right nearby, and I guess their basketball arena. All of them are right next to each other. And I did see some of the downtown, some of the old Spanish church that was there. I saw that. I bought some native trinkets for my nephew and my niece as well, so they can enjoy themselves. But the highlights, guys, of my stay at New Mexico was to enjoy some authentic New Mexican cuisine. Not Mexican cuisine, guys. There's a difference, and those people in New Mexico will let you know the difference, because there is a difference. And I'm sure they're similar, but there is a difference, and they do have some unique stuff that they invented themselves. Now, of course, New Mexico used to be part of Mexico, so we can kind of semantics here if you want to say that. But I did enjoy myself for 2 days with the meals over there. I'm gonna point out the two places that I went to. And let Char and I made sure to send you guys photos in the group chat, and as Charles hisses at me, and it was for the first time, I guess, since Charles got his beloved. Well, he'll mention that I'm assuming very soon. He probably wanted to go away from her real quick to enjoy some of what I was enjoying. And so one of the places I went to was La Cocina Azul. So New Mexican cuisine here, guys. Bienvenidos. Yeah, that's the location I went to. Out in downtown Albuquerque. You walk in, you sit down. You don't need to wait for a waiter. You just like, hey, welcome. Just sit wherever the hell you want. All right, perfect for me.
Look at that burger.
So they do have American-esque fare there if you want to be super gringo or super Andrew. But they have New Mexican cuisine, guys. So I'm hoping that they do have photos of their menu here, because I don't know which one of these I went to. I think I went to this one. I want to look at view our menu. I hope they have photos of it, but if not, I'm gonna have to find a way to display it. Anyways, well, I looked at the menu and I was ordering. They have breakfast and stuff like that. I wasn't able to get the honey glazed sopadillas, unfortunately. But
good. I deserve something nice.
But is this the right one? This may be their online menu, but
chili con queso.
Yeah.
I love chili con queso.
I'm trying to find their flautas, Charles. I have flautas.
Oh, I love flautas.
Dipped
in chocolate?
No, dipped in the chili.
Oh,
dipped in the chili, Charles.
There's some dessert places.
You remember that photo that I sent you of the flautas?
Was
they're
that
all,
that?
and they're all aligned in a circle and all that stuff. Guess what's inside that little pot? Some queso con chile. That's what's in there. And I almost licked that thing clean, Charles, with the bits of green chili peppers in there and all that stuff. Like the whole.
I
My
will.
God.
I will drive to Miami to fucking French tongue you just to get whatever residue is left.
Oh my God.
Yeah. This place was, oh my God, legit. And I ordered those as the appetizer, Charles. They didn't come. The entree came first, and in the entree, I went. All right, let's go with the burrito. Let's go with something consistent. Yeah. Burrito with some beef inside of it. Arroz. Got some frijoles next to it. Damn frijoles. Damn frijoles next to it. With a little guacamole there. I had both the red chile and the green chile right there, so I could have a mix of the flavors, and just go to town on that burrito. Okay, not a burrito in the traditional sense where you can grab it and hold it, but you actually have to use a knife and fork for this. All right, eat classy, but of course I eat like a pig. So the business folks that were next to me as I was just wolfing down that burrito in my Florida Panthers hoodie right there, they might not have appreciated the way I looked, but my God, guys. So, La Cocina Azul, they got two websites here. Let me see if this one has the actual photos in it. Because, here we go. Oh, here we go. Oh, I am rubbing my nipples right now. Yes.
Oh, is that the burrito?
Okay, so let's see, the chips and the salsa. I almost went for some tacos, guys. I hadn't.
I feel like you should go to a taco so you could try the variety of the meats.
I know, and
Ooh,
no, but the flautas I got.
What? Wait. What's that egg on top of?
The flautas were with chicken, so I went with two different beefs there, and I went with carne for the burrito.
Okay.
So that's,
you can't go wrong with carne burrito.
Yeah. So I went with that. They got the shredded beef there. Oh man, now I gotta go back. Damn it. Well, the client that I work for, the client that I work for, she has to apply for something new in about 2 years. So maybe in about 2 years I'll go back, guys. There's always that possibility. So yeah. So hold on, let me see their plates. Do they have photos of the plates? I got the New Mexico burrito plates. That's what I had, with the carne right there. And I wasn't there in time for breakfast, guys. I wasn't there in time for breakfast. That's the only thing I regret, is not having that stuff for breakfast. So that's where I went yesterday. But on day one, and I'm trying to find. Let me see. What was that place called, guys? Because I want to show off that one's menu as well, because that was the first place that I went to, and I'm like, ooh.
It's called hell because that's what you're making me feel like for living in a podunk town.
But the real thing was because of the thing that I had, which was a traditional New Mexican dish called a sopadilla. They invented it, they created it, and I never really had one before. And I was intrigued, and I
never had a sopadilla?
No, not really. Not in El Paso, not in any place like that.
Do you remember in South Park when he's in sopadilla? He's like, sopadilla! So he just runs and munches on them. He just FaceTimes.
Yeah.
That's just what I imagine you're going to be like.
I had two.
Good.
I had two. I had one I had the stuffed one that I showed you, and then I had the one that was just all by itself and whatever. It's just the actual. It's just bread, guys. It's fried bread. Who doesn't like fried bread? So El Patio de Albuquerque. That's what it was called. That's the place that it was called. I can't spell Albuquerque, but here we go. And yeah. I looked on Yelp. That one just shot right in front of my eyes. I'm like, ooh, we are going here, you guys. And so, nice, quaint venue. I liked it. Very wholesome, very homey type of feel, as you can see there. It looked like somebody's house, which is great. It went with the whole theme of El Patio de Albuquerque. And yeah, I'm trying to find I think no, that's trying to see if they have the Sopadilla picture there, but I don't see. Well, they have Sopadillas on the side over there, so I'm just gonna leave this picture up here and let Charles be incredibly jealous right now. And that just looks so good.
Is that enchiladas?
Yeah, they had.
So, fun fact: my mom was like, "I never had enchiladas." I'm like, "What?"
Oh,
I'm like, "What?"
Okay.
And so I had to explain to them. I'm like, "What?"
So
the greatness of enchiladas.
That's unsurprising coming from me. That's very surprising coming from your parents.
Yeah. Well, my parents.
I feel like Andrew,
what happens is different. They don't frequent Mexican restaurants. I get that.
And honestly, Andrew, I think you can handle red chile.
Yeah, red chile is fine, man.
Yeah, it's not really spicy at all. It's
super flavorful.
Yeah, it's a very it's mild, very mild indeed. It's not going to be like where you're waving your hand in front of your mouth type of hot. It's not. It actually isn't really that hot. The green chile you're not ready for.
I can't even do the green chile anymore because it upsets my stomach.
Yeah, I went light on the green chile when I was mixing and matching with my food there. But guys, oh my goodness gracious, I'm gonna have to end it here. But yeah, sopadillas. I'm gonna find a recipe for that. And I'm gonna make some. So that's my next target there. I got my flour, I got my stuff. I'm gonna find out how I can make it. Promo code Christmas, because that's what they called when you got red and green chili at the same time. They called it Christmas, and it felt like Christmas. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I wish I could have brought some back for you guys. Really wish I could. You don't get this in Florida. You just don't. Who's next?
I'll let Charles go because I think I know where he's going.
Oh.
Well, you're not wrong. So, as I said last week in my tribute to Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, life's short, man. Live into the light. Do those things that you don't get into. I don't believe necessarily in reincarnation. If I do, I hope I don't come back as a shit fly. What could I say? Tell that guy or girl that they matter. Go do some crazy things in life, not bungee jumping. Go buy an OLED television. And so when Scott Hall died, that's when I ordered it. My LG C1 48-inch OLED television, or as I like to call her, Razor Ramona. Instead of because Razor Ramon was this thing. So I was thinking about like Ramon, but I like my appliances. Like my car is a female name, is Mystique, because it's kind of like a blue-green tinge. Prior to that, it was Silver Sable. So there's always a feminine name to it. So I had Razor Ramona kind of came in, and it came in on the day I took off on that Friday. Was it Friday or was Thursday? Like I told you guys, I was at the beach and everything like that. It came in, and it 3 years, but I'm a patient man. And sometimes when you have to make that commitment, you need time to accumulate. You need time to accumulate, to look at everything, to look at all the factors, to look at all the other things that you have in your life when you're going to make new life changes. And sometimes those new life changes are for the better, they're for your development. Sometimes the new life changes, boys, are the fulfillment of everything that you have set out for on the road into life. Ramona, she came in. I watched one last episode of television on my old TV. I will keep that TV when I move out officially. I have 2 televisions. What can I have you? The final episode, of course, was Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I think is very proper because I feel like in 30 years' time, I will be full out Larry David. And I can just see it happening from Curb. Watch Curb if you guys have never seen it. It's funny. So I'm unboxing her. She's heavy, man. She's thick. She's thick, but she's slender. She's good looking. 48 inches out. My room couldn't do the 55 inch. Maybe that's for the other housing. But she goes in. I was so gentle, and then I had to include the base stand. I tried so hard to impress her. This is what a parent feels like when they adopt a child. This is how I felt. I want to make sure everything was nice. I try to make sure that even my TV panel, my entertainment center, could hold and carry the weight, because it's not just the weight of manufacturing, but it's the weight of greatness. And I was like, I'll spend the extra money because I'm going to take care of this. We're going to do this right, babe. We're going to do this right. I can carry that weight. I can think about you so long. I'm ready to be the man I got to be. She came in, I set her up, put on a few things, and it has just been experimentation of it's not young love and new love. It's love that has been earned. I've been looking through a window, trying to be part of your mirror. And then she came in, and when I put on that first game, which is Dragon Ball Fighters, which is coincidentally what I'm playing now because I want to see how it upscaled my PlayStation 4 games. And then I want to see how it will go on my PS5 games. So I was doing Tony Hawk. I was playing, Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm sorry, Forbidden West. 46 hours into that game. Jesus, I'm not worrying, dude. And then I was playing Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War because this TV can even support up to 120 FPS. Most games on the PlayStation 5 goes to 60 FPS, but it can go to 120 FPS. And then a song blew into my mind where I heard, "Suddenly life has new meaning to me." OLED, highest optical illusion quality, is the blackest of blacks and the whitest of whites. Everything is upscaled, high definition rendering, going up to 120 variable refresh rate, 120 hertz, fellas. It can support 60 FPS, it can support 120 FPS. My eyes bled last night when I'm playing it. Everything looks flush, everything looks beautiful. It's popping out, and it has like 4 HDMI ports. I got my PlayStation 4, my PlayStation 5, my Switch on it. I could put in my Fire Stick onto it. They have LG channels. They even have all your streaming stuff on there. The remote's kind of cool. They have a scroll wheel, and they have game optimizer mode for a lot of my heavy gaming. So it puts at a specific rate to lock in the perfect kind of shadowing and high definition rendering. And if I don't like that, I could switch it out to all the other gallery modes, cinema mode, television mode, sports mode, but I'll do it to the game optimizer. And then it even automatically changes it too. So it went from 120 FPS for Black Ops and now back to 60 FPS. And I am just like in astonishment because one, I got this on the cheaper, not the cheap, but the cheaper. I even got the warranty for it, and I'm glad. I love it. It is good to me. Razer Ramona, and I sent you guys videos. I felt like that didn't make a difference, but I know you could see the quality.
Like I have it up on the screen here. Even you got it on the cheap for sure, because even on LG's website, they have it at like $250 off, and it's still $1,049 here.
Yeah,
so.
I use some things. I calculate, I waited, but this, you know what this brought me back to? This, when the minute I set it up and the minute I installed it, that's how I knew it made it in life. I remember me and one of my best buddies, Steven, would go to Best Buy, and as we're BSing about life, and this is before you're lawyers, right? As we're just going there, we're 20-something-year-olds. I'm selling shoes, I'm selling supplements, I'm selling books in my olden days. We're just going around, we're looking at the old curved televisions. We were looking at OLED when the first time OLED ever came to our eyes. We're seeing things 1080p first time. I'm like, man, and you're seeing those televisions like $3,000, $2,000, and ain't no way when you're a youngin' and you're broke, you're gonna be able to port. Ain't no way sometimes when you're broke and you're old and that you can get it. But I was able to do it. And this was some people want to be a lawyer so they could be a judge, Supreme Court justice. Some people want to be a lawyer because they want to be a politician. Some people want to be a lawyer for whatever reason, have their own law firm, be a billboard guy. I guess those 3 years of hell and studying for the bar exam and telling me to wait almost 9 years of my life was just to move on up to that east side and get that piece of the pie, because I guess my whole entire purpose was to get Ramona. And now I could just die happy. So Razer Ramona, LG C1 OLED televisions. And here's the thing. If you've never seen OLED before, don't go. Don't try. You won't want to go back to anything else. You wouldn't want to buy anything else. And that's perfectly fine. You keep your standard 4K televisions. They're good. I have one in the entertainment room. They're fine. But once you go into that investment OLED, you can't downgrade it, man. You can't downgrade it. You just got to keep going with it. So I love it. This will be for a very long time. And you don't need to go 8K TVs, because I know what people are going to say next. Nothing's going to be matching that technology in about 3-4 years. Maybe 6 years, sure, I think. But I haven't even watched the big high-end movies yet. But I love her. She's good. I haven't left the bedroom since. Razer Ramona, my LG C1 OLED television. You're my non-sponsor. Promo code. We made it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I'm so happy for you, because, and guys, we've heard this on the show, and even stuff on the group chat. Andrew, like, we had to actively convince Charles to actually buy the damn TV. You've been hunting this TV for years.
Well, different specifications. This is the newest of the new until the new ones come out in April. But yes,
of course. But you're gonna get that with all technology. You just kind of have to jump in at some point. I'm
a patient man.
Yeah,
I'm a patient man. Yeah. I gotta do it right. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. But
you just don't say that you're in love on date one. You have to build it up, guys.
And yeah, I love the game optimization features.
It is kind of cool.
Yeah, like my TV has it, but not on the level of your TV. That's for sure. Your TV is a lot more advanced than mine already. Yours is OLED, mine is not. So
yeah, the reason why it matters for any kind of game optimization is if you're trying to get frame rate and performance, you're not getting choppiness. So everything gets smoothed out. So listen, when I played 120 FPS last night on Black Ops, I'm not just gonna want to say I killed a lot of people because it was better.
Oh no, there's a legitimate, and I've watched videos about this on YouTube where it's double the frame rate difference. You go from 60 to 120, and you see just a bit more than the other person, and it matters. It really matters. Obviously, stuff on the Switch is not going to be optimized for that because, I don't think.
But they can even it can even upscale. I haven't even played my Switch on yet, but I'm looking forward to it with Kirby, man. But HDR can even upgrade it, so I'm just gonna be like, kids, it's gonna be 1080p, but it's gonna be 1080p at its sexiest, man.
We got Nintendo Switch Sports, then we got Splatoon 3, right?
Oh my god, all that in coloring.
Yeah. Oh my god, you're gonna be. Oh, there's just gonna be some ink in your room.
Call me John Holmes because I'm just plastering.
All right, Andrew, you're up.
All right. It's kind of an odd one, I suppose, but I saw it the other day on Netflix, and it kind of warms the cockles of your heart. This movie is called
Ramona warms my cockles. It was seriously, I had to say it.
Anyway, this movie is called Rescued by Ruby. It's on Netflix, based on a true story. It is about a rescue dog named Ruby.
Aww.
Who becomes a rescue dog with the Rhode Island State Police. There's a man, Daniel O'Neill. He wanted to become a search and rescue canine officer. But he couldn't, according to the story, the movie story at least, he couldn't afford one of the $10,000 trained German Shepherds that come from wherever. So he you know what? I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it because I do want you all to watch it.
I've got a trailer in the background, but
it's not.
I don't watch movies. I cry. We don't do that here. I don't need to cry on OLED. I'm already crying as it is. Just looking at Ramona right now.
I'm just looking at the dog.
It's not going to win any Oscars. I know that. But if you're looking for something to kind of, it's a feel-good story. And
is that the Flash in it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Grant Gustin, a.k.a. the Flash from TV, not the movies, the TV. Apparently it's called the Arrowverse.
Yeah, because they started on CW.
So he's part of the Arrowverse, not the DC Extended Universe movies. But he stars in the role as Daniel O'Neill. So anyway, it's a true story. They took some creative liberties with it, but not as many as you'd think. So it's a good movie because like I said, it's a feel-good, heartwarming story. It actually is a good movie. Like I said, it's not going to win any Oscars, but it's not like some Hallmark Channel shit. It's actually got some good production value. But if you need a little pick-me-up, if you feeling down about yourself, it's a good movie to watch. There's no real sadness in it. There's no animal deaths in it. Yeah, and I was looking at it. Where was it? I think it was something like 86% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes from audience score, which is fucking impossible to get. seems like everyone will hate a movie in some way.
People love dogs.
People love dogs.
Yeah, that's how they made those 2 crappy Dennis Quaid movies.
But yeah, I highly recommend it. I feel a bit of a connection to the movie. I identify with the main character for one reason or another. Although really anyone can identify with him in one way or another. But it's a really good movie. If you have nothing to watch, that's how I found it. Is I was like, I've got nothing to watch. I would take out like an hour and a half of your time to watch it. It's a really good movie. It'll make you feel good. Promo code Ruby.
Okay. All right, guys. So, and I guess we'll briefly touch on this stuff because Andrew wants to talk about food and some other stuff. If we can get, and we just kind of shoehorn this in. It's 9:00, and we've gone on a bit long because of technical difficulties on my end. But I do want to talk about the actual, because this is a sports show. As much as we get deeper and deeper into the lifespan of this show, it's getting further away from the sports part of the show.
See, but it's typical of a television show
Yeah.
because the longer a show goes on, when you get to seasons 5, 6, 7, what allows you to go back to your roots episode or your root season. It's basically season 5 of Community going back to your roots. It's season 7 of Dexter going back to your roots. It's
Or Always Sunny when they make fun of shows doing that when the gang recycles their trash. You remember that episode?
yes. So
Boys are
one of
back
the few
in
shows that
town.
consistently kept back into their style. 15 seasons in, nothing's really changed. Even though I say season 14 or 13 was different because they had to play it different when they were leading to max reveal.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is by we get to like episode 200, because we're at 136 now. By episode 200, then we're like, all right, boys, let's go check back what's happening in sports. That's where we talk about conspiracy theories are done.
So, show is leaning more on the goof side than the sports side of the name. So, all right. So, baseball. Let's go through this. Carlos Correa signs with the Minnesota Twins of all teams.
Punk ass. I didn't want him. I'll take it for a second.
Yeah.
Everybody was saying the Yankees should sign him. I didn't want him to begin with. I didn't want that heat from the trash can situation. I didn't like the arrogance. And no one really wanted to pay him the big money because even though he got paid, anything that's a 3-year deal with an opt-out after 2 means you really didn't get the accomplished money because baseball money is what, boys? Guaranteed fully. So there's not that 10-year, $300 million contract for this guy. The numbers are going to be fine. It's the same thing at Jose Altuve, but you obviously did not sell yourself well enough as you entered free agency. And Minnesota is that stand. So we add this player and we won't even come close to sniffing the wild card because they're on the rebuild reload. And I'm perfectly fine with it because they were the definitive COVID era team where they were able to be good at the AL Central. And then last year they were ass. And even though Cleveland's kind of selling out as the Guardians, that's new terminology that I got to figure out, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer the Indians, but as the Guardians. And then the White Sox are still going to be there premierly. And who else is in the Central?
I still feel like that division is winnable for any of those teams except for Cleveland. Cleveland's hit the reset button. But Chicago should be the favorite. Kansas City has improved.
Oh, that's right.
And
they got Zach Greinke.
Yeah, they signed Zach Greinke. That was the other signing that I was going to mention. So he's back in Kansas City. You've got Minnesota, who has money and has their ballpark and all that stuff, and I guess they're going to try and reach back to that 2020 window and see if they can reopen it with Correa signed there. And the Detroit Tigers
also trade away dudes last year. That's why it doesn't make sense.
The Detroit Tigers, if their rebuild is on track, they should be 10 games better than they were last season. Last season they were pretty good. They were an all right baseball team, so they might be reaching that 80-win mark. If one or two things go their way, maybe they can pop in on as part of those new bottom wildcard teams. So remember, I've predicted probably one team, probably in either of these leagues, might be under 500 to get that final wildcard spot. And then we'll have people complaining about all of that. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't see it as a bad move for the Twins because I feel like they feel like they can win that division. But the whole thing is, yeah, you won the division, but then you're just going to lose in the first round to blank, blank West team, blank East team.
Blank wildcard team.
Or blank wildcard team because the Central team might be the weakest of those division teams. Okay, so Korea's gone. Jorge Soler, Doug's boy, he signs with the Marlins. So the Marlins were able to prize somebody away. The Marlins
don't know enough about him.
I mean,
he has 2 World Series and that's it.
He won a World Series. He was the World Series MVP with the Braves. And
but that's the most forgettable baseball team to win a World Series.
3 seasons prior, he hit 48 home runs in a season while he was with the Royals. So he's got pop, but of course he's going to be playing at Lone Depot Park, which is a pitcher's ballpark, and it's cavernous. So I don't know what those power numbers are going to be with the Marlins. And that's kind of my whole issue with attracting hitters down here. But he's here, and the Marlins got somebody. The Marlins have extended some of their more notable players, so they're on the bottom rung of payroll, but there's at least a gap between them at number 5 and the next teams that are down there, like Cleveland and Oakland and whoever. So I guess the Marlins are trying. But the entire thing is they're still rebuilding, and they need to improve by at least 10 wins this year, and we got to prove that false prophet wrong. All right. Trevor Story signs with the Boston Red Sox. Yep.
And he's gonna play a position he's never played before in second base.
Yeah.
And so, Andrew, you play Little League. Francisco, you played Little League. There's a steep learning curve for all position changes. But I think with second base and shortstop, the biggest issue is kind of knowing when to not be on the bag for the field, trying to get the ball going from whatever. And if you have a guy who's been in the league for such a long time, it does not necessarily transition well. What this reminds me of, or what it could be on a defensive standpoint, is Alex Rodriguez signs with the Yankees and goes from being shortstop to third baseman. And there was a big adjustment period. And Trevor Story is a very good player. Trevor Story was not Alex Rodriguez to get all that kind of leeway. And I just hate the fact that he went to Boston, not because I necessarily want him or need him. Yankee, look, we know that we're going to suck for the next couple of years. That's where I think all the signings are, and I'm okay with it because there's no way in hell I was saying, yeah, this is our season kind of thing. But did I watch Trevor Story? Yeah. Did him going to Boston make you be like, what the fuck? Yeah, because he's not going to be the shortstop. He's going to be the second baseman. And here's the thing about Boston. They are now loyal to big-time players. They jump dudes out. Mookie Betts, Adrian Gonzalez, a whole bunch of pitchers that they have. Yep. They'll keep to you on a longer contract for pitching, but not for your hitters. So don't get too comfortable now.
Yeah, they're willing to eat contract money in order to get rid of guys.
Yeah, and they have in the past. So literally, if something's not fit, because I think Xander Bogaerts is their shortstop, right? Or let me just verify. I should know because of my hatred for them so much, but it goes from there. I'm just disappointed. And some fans on Twitter were hating the Yankees for not, going and signing the big money dudes. But I get it, because did you really want Correa? Because if you look at the salary that he was probably demanding, even if you got that contract out with him, he's going to probably opt out to go for a bigger time because, you have to assume not of what you could offer, but assume if you gave him the same deal, it's still going to be around. We're obviously focusing a lot on Anthony Volpe, the draft prospect that we have, to get in there. But what does that tell you? Is that they're saying, hey, wait a couple of years, because it is Xander Bogaerts as their shortstop. They're saying, hey, wait a couple of years, because maybe the current market that we have is competitive enough to get there. We didn't get any pitching, which scares me. That's all I've been asking for 3 years, Brian Cashman. But of course, Trevor Story went to Boston. Of course, Boston overspent. Of course, they want to match up with what the Dodgers are doing when they got Freddie Freeman, and then assuming they're going to get Trevor Bauer too. That's what scares me the most about the Dodgers, is that Trevor Bauer's not gone, guys. Nope. He's coming back this season.
Nope.
And, him and he's got special courtside seats, or, not courtside seats. I'm thinking basketball. He's got, because we're going to talk about that, he's got special seats designated for Deshaun Watson. Part of the group, baby. Part of the group. Where you can get you paid and you're not going to get suspended. So F that, man.
All right, so then we had the Yankees traded Luke Voigt. He's gone off to San Diego.
We re-signed Anthony Rizzo for 2 years. I'm fine with it because I saw him in person. That man is massive. Yeah. But listen, we're playing for 3 years. We're hoping that the Toronto Blue Jays don't play out. We're hoping that Boston trades out everybody. We hope that the Rays deminimize themselves, and in 2 years we can do this.
So those are some of the, I guess, the shoes that
Chris Bryant.
Chris Bryant went to Colorado for some reason. I don't know what the Rockies are doing. I feel like, and honestly, and I've watched videos about how the Rockies are treating their franchise, where they give us, like, they're making money, of course, but they give off a semblance that they're trying to be competitive without actually being competitive. And maybe they'll get lucky, because the Rockies always seem like that team that somehow goes on a run. They have like a good month, and that's enough for them to at least grab a wild card spot. They always seem to be that sort of team every 3 or 4 or 5 years. So, and that might actually happen this year with the extra playoff spots. So maybe that's what they're hoping for. It gets fans engaged in Colorado, and they've got a good fan base over there that watch their games. And I feel like they never really hit the complete reset button on a rebuild. They do just enough to where it makes it like, oh, okay, we got a guy. All right, cool. We'll buy season tickets. That seems to be their end game. And Nolan Arenado saw right through it, which is why he demanded a trade out to St. Louis. But Chris Bryant doesn't really have much more to prove in baseball, to be honest. He already won his World Series with the Cubs, and he's
his
out.
Offensive numbers are going to go through the roof.
Yeah, and likely he's just doing it to cash in now, and maybe by the end of it, gets traded to a team. Maybe has another chance at another championship in the long run, or just, hey, if his offensive numbers are high, kind of try to finagle that to an extra contract or two. So, but it's purely a money grab. I don't think he's going to Colorado to win, because he was in San Francisco when the Cubs traded him out. I mean, if he wanted to win, he would have stayed there. So, all right. So that's the baseball stuff. Oh yeah, Apple TV is gonna get Friday Night Baseball now, so that's a thing. That's gonna happen. Yeah. So don't know if that'll entice anybody to get Apple TV Plus, but it's not getting me right now.
There's too much sports as it is. I got Ramona the gamer girl, man.
All right, NHL trade deadline went down. The Panthers finally got Claude Giroux out from Philly. Ben Chirot, they got 2 defensemen because Aaron Ekblad got injured again, and he's out for the rest of the season. And the Panthers are going to do
playoffs included.
No, because the Panthers are going to do a Tampa Bay Lightning loophole by having him on a long-term IR, which doesn't affect their salary cap, and Ekblad will return by the beginning of the playoffs.
So like they do with Stamkos,
they grabbed an extra defenseman, because they were going to grab a defenseman anyways, but they grabbed an extra one because of his injury, and so it won't affect their cap, and Ekblad should return. And we got Claude Giroux out of Philly, which means we have to win the cup now, because it's the only reason he's here. He wants to win a Stanley Cup. So, let's hope we do it. May give him a Ray Bourque type of thing. And even though he's not going to be retiring after this, but he's a free agent after this. And who knows? Maybe he likes it in Florida and stays afterwards. So that went down. Who else? Let's see. A weird thing happened between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Anaheim Ducks.
That was amazing.
So Vegas traded out Evgeny Dadonov. He was being traded to Anaheim. I forgot for who. I think some picks and stuff like that. Nobody of note. They were just trying to free up.
It was at the end of the day. It was to cap them.
Yeah, it was a cap move. So to try and get and try and probably work out some other deals. So Evgeny Dadonov was being shipped out to Anaheim. However, he has a limited no trade clause, meaning he has a set list of 10 teams that he gives to the Vegas Golden Knights and says, if you're going to send me anywhere, it has to be one of these 10 teams. I'm not going anywhere else. And from what it looks like, Anaheim was not on that list. So,
no, I think it was the other way around. It was a list of 10 teams that he didn't want to go to.
Okay, but either way, Anaheim was not where he wanted to go. He did not want to go to Disneyland. So Dadonov was just no Anaheim. So the NHL had to look it over because the Knights wanted to get this trade done. They're like, well, it's already happened and Anaheim already accepted, and I'm sure Dadonov and his reps, and I'm sure the Players Association, because you got to honor those contracts, were probably like, NHL, review this and void it, and they ultimately did. So Evgeny Dadonov is still in Vegas now with a team that didn't want him anymore. So that's going to be fun, and I think he has played a game already with them again. So we'll see how that goes. The Knights are still in a playoff position, but we'll see what happens the rest of the way. But that's kind of a fun thing that happened with him. Other things that went down. Pittsburgh got Raquel, another person. Anaheim's just unloading guys. They're very much in a rebuild at the moment, so they're not ready to compete. So they're moving guys out. The Minnesota Wild got Marc-Andre Fleury out from Chicago. So Cam Talbot was their starting goaltender, but he's been pretty inconsistent, even though Wild have a pretty solid hockey team this year, but they're just in a division with Colorado, so they're just not going to catch up to them. However, with Marc-Andre Fleury, who's good, and mind you, he played for Chicago. Chicago's a bad team. His numbers, I don't think you could put too much on him with regards to his goals against and his save percentage, because just Chicago's not a good team. And he did win the Vezina Trophy last year. So, Minnesota's got a goaltender, a proven one, by the way, who has a couple of Stanley Cups under his belt to kind of see if they can make some noise in the playoffs, even though it's going to be really hard for them. Then we have the Boston Bruins got Lindholm out from Anaheim, another person from Anaheim. The Toronto Maple Leafs got Giordano, the defenseman, the captain from the Seattle Kraken, out. So the Kraken are without a captain in their first season already, but they're just not a good team. They really are an expansion team. There's no miracle like with Vegas going out in Seattle. So those are some of the notable trades that went down in the NHL. But I guess some of the things is the Panthers are all in. They've traded away a ton of draft picks for the future already. Like it's kind of scary for a lot of Panthers fans because they've never been in this position before. But much like the meme, fuck them kids. Right, fuck those kids that we could have drafted in the future, because it's now. It is absolutely right now. They have to win the cup now or next year. It has to happen. Like this is it.
Well, it's really now if you just traded for Giroux.
Well, this is it. This is the window is open. Like here it is. They have to get through. So,
I mean, you're following the. You're following the Tampa Bay method. We are screwed for draft picks for the next few seasons.
And up against the cap as well all the time.
But in the sage advice or sage thoughts of our GM, JVB, there's no guarantees with draft picks, and
yep.
Which is why I don't put too much sucks in them myself. Yeah,
and once you get out of the top few picks, there's not that huge of a difference between like a late rounder,
or a second rounder. Yeah,
right. It's so go all in, push in all your chips.
Mm-hmm. So there's that's what's going down with the Panthers. Another thing is the Pittsburgh Penguins are reloading again, and they're very much a dark horse because they have a good team. They have Stanley Cup champions on that team, and I wouldn't really want to face them. Those are some scary teams out there. And the Panthers, I'm just hoping that they win the division, but even then, like the playoff rounds right now, if the playoffs started now, they'd be facing the Washington Capitals, which is not an easy team. None of these teams are easy. The East is going to be a gauntlet for any team. There's already chippiness with teams against the Lightning right now. You saw what happened with the Carolina Hurricanes and them after the game. They got really chippy, shoving each other and stuff like that. Like I told you, Andrew, if the Lightning are going to win a third one, they're going to die trying, if anything, because
we know that.
The East teams this is probably the most loaded up that I've seen the East in a long time. Carolina is super good. Florida is super good. Pittsburgh is super good again. The Capitals are still around. Boston is still around. And Toronto, this is like the year they really got to prove they can do something. And if the way things are going, they'd be facing the Lightning in the first round. And if there's one way to prove that you're going to do something, it's by beating them. And then you got whoever comes out west, and everybody's pointing at Colorado. This is it for Colorado too. Like, they got to do it too. They've been building up for this for years, and I've been picking them to win the cup prior to this, like every other year. And this is the best that they've had in a long, long time. Probably since Sakic himself was playing. So this is not going to be an easy. I think the West is a lot more. I guess a lot more settled on the teams that I feel like are the favorites. But the East, we know what the 8 teams are. We just don't know what order things are going to go in, and that's kind of the beauty and, of course, the horror of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Okay, let's move on. NFL, because trades are going down there too. Tyreek Hill's in Miami now.
Whoo!
I am not happy of this.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of strong opinions about what's going down.
I'll be honest, he shouldn't even be in the league. But that's not happening.
Time is a relative construct, and apparently a lot of players, a lot of owners, and a lot of fantasy football fans and Miami Dolphin fans don't care about what happened in the past.
Oh yeah, Miami Dolphins fans don't care at all. But
I'm gonna say two things. I'm gonna say one name, and you're gonna see what I mean by what this contract and this trade reminds me of. Mike Williams. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Missing speedster, supposed to fit the piece, supposed to be the big change to the offense, whole bunch of nothing. And part of it is because your quarterback. Tua throws corkscrews to the ground, man.
I'm loving the memes that came out of it because they were talking about Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and then they were just showing clips of like either Tua underthrowing or like clips of Tim Tebow underthrowing.
Well, that's the thing is how bad is Tua in your eyes? I think he might be a serviceable quarterback, but would you not rather just put Teddy in there? I don't know.
But if that's
tough.
And that's kind of the thing that people are saying, well, with those two guys, Tua doesn't have to throw 70 yards on every play or whatever. But then you're putting the entire burden of these these check downs and 10-yard passes for these guys to turn to 10 yards into 60 yards, you know? And
not just that, but all this means nothing if you don't have a
sustainable is
running
that?
back.
Yeah, and the Dolphins have tried. If there's one thing I can't fault that team as much as I hate on them, is that they do try.
They have tried for you.
They have
and
tried.
Getting Teron Armstead and getting Tyreek, even though I don't like what they traded for. I mean, NFL people who grade these things love it. They're like, oh, yeah, this is a great trade for Miami. I don't know what Kansas City was thinking. I think Kansas City is smart.
Draft picks.
They're like, well, it's draft picks, but it's more or less like we believe that Patrick Mahomes is a 10-year guy.
Yeah.
We believe that Tyreek Hill is a 3-year guy. So we're
it could burn out. Yeah, they're looking for
all the quarterbacks who get traded, Patrick Mahomes is the Aaron Rodgers ilk that won't get traded. That he'll still get the big money, assuming he plays throughout this contract. He ain't going to be the Russell Wilson or all these the Deshaun Watsons that they get traded, for whatever reasons. That's Brett Veach's thought process.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, this is the year the Dolphins finally see what Tua's actually made of. So
Yeah,
they'll
that's
see
a lot
if-
of pressure on him.
Yeah,
With
oh,
a
yeah.
rookie head coach too.
That's
I mean,
true.
we like McDaniel as a weird personality, not eccentric but real.
Well, he's got
But-
now he's got some actual weapons to say, all right, Mr. Offensive Genius, try and work this shit out.
But the bigger issue with it is that you guys are gonna have to trade everybody on that defense. Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, all of that, because they're the ones who are overpriced besides new guys that you got overpriced, and you can't sustain it at the cap.
Well, that's
fully.
kind of the Dolphins are kind of doing this all in type of thing. Fuck them kids as well.
Yeah,
and what's more,
all in.
and I've told you, and I've always made this point. I've been telling Stephen Ross, you're gonna die without winning a Super Bowl championship, and you're just gonna have to accept it.
Yep.
This is desperation on the part of,
or you're gonna get kicked out as an owner, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, try and win one before they actually find you guilty of whatever Brian
You
Flores
think that's the biggest
has
thing?
accused you of.
He's like, you can't call me racist. I got Tyreek Hill. It's okay. He's from Miami.
Oh,
it's
boy.
perfectly fine, guys.
So that went down, and then Deshaun Watson,
Who, buddy?
Cleveland.
Well, aside from the fact that Deshaun Watson can go fuck himself, and I'm very disappointed in the.
What about innocent until proven guilty, Andrew?
There's still
We
a
all
civil
crapped
case
him
out
last
there.
week.
There's still a civil case,
I'm not a prosecutor, and I'm not in a legal setting right now.
and we're not in the grand jury. So
And nor is the NFL, so they can make whatever arbitrary decisions they want.
But still, he can go fuck himself.
Yep. $250 million guaranteed, boys. Even if he gets suspended.
yeah,
That's
very
Go
Cleveland.
ahead, Andrew. Go ahead, Andrew.
It's very Cleveland Browns of them. Man, the Browns. If there's one thing that the Browns and the Jets make Dolphins fans feel better about themselves. That's for sure. Oh boy. Do you guys want to keep talking about this, or we want to move on?
Oh, I thought Andrew had more on Deshaun Watson. The only thing I have to say about the Deshaun Watson thing is that it's amazing how only female reporters have commented on how it's a shame. But I think Judy Batista on NFL Network really talked about it, and then you really get the male quietness from any of the I'll call them dirt sheets. That's a wrestling terminology, but any of the male news reporters who won't even say it's kind of a damn shame or concerning that they would even go as far. I don't think there was the obligation to speak to the alleged victims. If you're the business trying to sign somebody, you don't typically get that any kind of visiting. But I think it's concerning that I felt the desperation coming because the guy in Cleveland was spurned. He didn't want to go to Cleveland. And then he probably asked his agent, said, what's the holdup? He's like, we want guaranteed money in case we're going to get suspended because we're presuming to get suspended. And they were like, fine, we'll be the only team that gives it to you. But I can tell you now, a lot of the female reporters who cover the NFL or sports in general are very disappointed. I think it's kind of disturbing that from what I have read, I'm sure it's out there, but I don't read every single article there, but I have not seen male reporters, male analysts would be like, you know what, fuck this guy. I think the three guys right here on this show are kind of like, fuck this guy. But you're supposed to have everybody's back in the community, right? And I understand that we want to talk about innocent until proven guilty on the criminal aspect. Mind you, they just declined the second grand jury on there, and that's fine. But on the civil proponent of it, it goes back to what if he signs an NDAs, right, and does the settlements. I still think that kind of gives some credence, and the fact that he can kind of walk away with the guaranteed money is what's concerning. And it's really, is it more disappointing the fact that Deshaun Watson got it, or is it more disappointing of how even if he gets suspended, Cleveland literally appealed to everything out of desperation for a fictional title that really at the end of the day doesn't mean anything in longevity of it, versus the possibility that there was not whether or not there was an actual sexual abuse happened, but you were so reckless with wanting to win and the thirst for victory that led you to possibly sign these kind of people, right? For every Henry Ruggs situation where Oakland's like, or not Oakland, but Las Vegas, like, we got to release this guy. There has been plenty of players that are going to have some very heinous, controversial charges. And when I say charges, not just criminal, but even civil, suits against them. And then we're just like, but if they're an excellent player, they get the exception. They're the exception. Because I can tell you now, if this was anybody else that wasn't Deshaun Watson, that didn't have 4 seasons to prove it, if it was somebody who was a second-year player, they ain't even in the league anymore. There's so much at issue here. And what the funny problem is, it's disappointing because it's Cleveland. Because it had to be Cleveland, right? It had to be Cleveland.
Yeah.
A place known for mundanity.
Yeah. Oh, boy. So that's Cleveland. NBA. So I did watch a game yesterday. I watched Brooklyn versus Memphis. So and the Grizz won even without Ja playing the game. So they beat Kyrie and KD. New York City has lifted their vaccination mandate for the professional athletes. So Kyrie will actually be playing in Brooklyn this season. However,
I hate this for a couple, or I'll let you finish, but
yeah, and there's the possibility that if things go the way they're going, it could line up where he may not play certain games in the playoffs because they might be lining up against Toronto, and Canada still has mandates for that. So, anyways, that's all I wanted to say about that.
Well, the reason, I mean, aside from the fact that Kyrie is a fucking idiot and he just does not deserve to be as popular as he is, but I digress. The other thing for me is this is setting a very, very bad precedent for not just pro sports players, but really anybody, because it's basically telling it's like telling a petulant little child, he's tantruming, wah, 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 wah. And eventually the parent caves in and gives them the cookie. The only thing it's doing in the short term is alleviating the problem of you meaning the parent. But in the long term, it's just going to teach the kid, if I throw a tantrum and scream and whatever, I'll get my cookie. So here, it's telling Kyrie, I can do whatever I want, and in time, I'll get what I want.
I can't agree with you on that. Because even though we think he's an idiot, it's not like he made this big proponent change saying how effed up these vaccination thing. His stance was obviously misguided and misreported, but this was just the decision in New York for the private sector portion. It's not like he threatened to not play at all and put undue burden and say, hey, I won't play at all in the season, even if I'm allowed to go play, because I don't like what's going on in New York. Right? I get where you're kind of come from, but I can't say he's the petulant child syndrome for it. If anything, it's for New York, they're just kind of like, we care more about money. And really it's on the mayor over there and everything else they're going on, because it's going to be impacting not just him, but also the baseball players that are coming in from the Yankees and the Mets and outside, right? And then also football and all those other things. So it's more like y'all chose money over health of people. But Kyrie, even though he was kind of like that focal point, he was really the only player to not go to vaccination. He was criticized of it, but he wasn't like he was pulling a James Harden saying, I'm out of shape, I'm not in shape, I can't come in, who really forced his way out now of just one team, but two teams. Or Ben Simmons, who, I'm going to be mean, maybe shielded a mental health disorder or a base of mental health to not play for Philly, but then he's all show in Brooklyn, even though he hasn't been play with herniated disc. So unless I missed something where Kyrie was like, this vaccine is super dumb and I'm going to sit out the entire NBA season and just everybody until they change my ways. I think the narrative is a little different from where you're coming from and approaching it.
Fair enough.
All right. And then there was a bit of a tiff, let's just say, between Jimmy Butler and Udonis Haslem last night. Just a bit.
Or you mean, let's call it what it is. Papa Spo showing you why he is the best at working with any player that has an ego. If Kyrie Irving was playing for the Miami Heat, he'd be okay, Andrew. He'd be vaccinated, because it's Eric Spoelstra. His real name is Ego Spoelstra, because he can control that ish. As he's going to Jimmy and saying, you want to fight me for it? I love that. I love it more than Udonis just straight up saying, I'm not trying to be, and half a second like, I'll beat your ass to Jimmy. But on the show, we'll say it now. If they end up winning because of this tiff, it's because of this what happened right here. If they went out to the finals, it's because of what happened yesterday. For whatever reason, we're marking it, and that's what Charles Stradamus is saying. I loved it, Francisco. I don't know what Jimmy was angry about. I think the idea, if I had to spin the narrative of being a Heat fan, is what did I tell you? My concern with them is they can't play against real, like, offensively showy teams. And the West's 1 through 4 are offensively showy teams. The East ain't nothing. I'm more concerned about Philly to a degree. It's probably going to be Milwaukee. We talked about this the other day, but we're slowly creeping away from one, but we're not built that way. We're about defense and then sharing the ball and not doing turnovers.
Yeah.
It's what it is. Ain't nobody in offense is
and trying to grind teams out, essentially, too. Yeah.
It's the wear and tear. But I loved it just for Spo, because the way Spo said it, there was no fear in his eyes.
Yeah, he was kind of like, "Are you kidding me right now?" Like, you see his arms crossed, and you see his hand motions. Like, are you gonna fucking fight me?
Because I think Eric Spoelstra is like the most physically, like, least intimidating coach on all the roster. Like, Greg Popovich, I think, will smack me in the face.
Yeah.
I think we can say that, right? Steve Nash, I know, will throw hands.
Yeah.
He's still got the player's mentality. And then, Monty Williams throw hands, right? The coach of the Phoenix Suns.
Former player too.
Got to. So a lot of the former players. And there was Eric Spoelstra. He looks like the guy who brings out, like, a tissue from his breast pocket in his suit if you're crying. He's like, a handkerchief, like, you need this? He's that guy. But then I sent you that that clip of, the interview after the fact. He was like, oh, what are you guys angry about? I was like, we're just talking about dinner.
Yeah.
He has that team taken care of.
Yeah.
He has that team taken care of.
Yeah,
And, it's glad that it was Udonis that did it, because there's nobody else. The team's Jimmy's been around longer now on the team that nobody else is the de facto leader for that team besides Udonis. It's not Bam yet. You know what I mean? To be the facilitator. It's not Bam yet. My dogs even agree in the background.
It's just, people are going to make something bigger out of it. I watched NBA TV yesterday while I was just waiting around, and Isaiah Thomas talked about it, and he was basically saying, like Jimmy needed to stand down here, because what Udonis Haslem was doing is, the reason Udonis Haslem is still on the team is because he is the source of the culture that the Heat that's the Heat's thing. It's Heat culture. So
people don't understand the culture. So how's Isaiah Thomas, of all people, going to explain culture?
Well, I mean, Isaiah Thomas was explaining it like, this is something that derives from the moment that Pat Riley got Alonzo Mourning. And that culture is what continues to permeate throughout the organization, and it moved on from Zoe, and then because Udonis Haslem is still the guy that's left from 2006 and the Big Three era, that he is still the source of it until someone else can take up the mantle and he can finally retire. So and that's basically him. He felt like Jimmy needed to stand down to the culture there. But I mean, honestly, it's just something that blowed over, and like the players are explaining, like, guys, we do this in practice. Like, there's a reason Jay Crowder's not on the Heat no more. It's because he got into this with Jimmy Butler while he was with the Heat,
But why are we the ones who always get shit on? Y'all forget Michael Jordan punched Steve Kerr in the face.
Yeah.
But yet we're angry that
Scottie Pippen is not anywhere near Michael Jordan right now.
Yeah, but yet it's us, because it goes back to the whole thing is, like, are we just, like, the most unlike franchise? And I can get the whole Miami Dolphin hatred. Miami Marlins, they don't get enough traction to get that hatred coming there. But Miami Heat are getting, like, New York Yankees kind of heat when it comes into obnoxious. The New England Patriots and the Tom Brady hatred coming to it. I find it very weird, because y'all should be hating Philly. Y'all should be hating Brooklyn. Everything we've done is organic. We have literally no one who has caused a problem on the roster. Do you hate us because of Seferopolis or whatever?
It seems like
Harrisolopolis?
It seems like the thing with the Heat is that nobody's willing to acknowledge our good qualities, but as soon as, like, one little thing that they could point out our faults for, and that's what they hang on to. So it's like, oh, they're in first place, but every time they mention that they're in first place as well, but Milwaukee's like 2 games behind, and Philly's like 2 games behind. Like, they're just
in first place for 2/3 of the season.
Exactly. Everybody's just waiting for the pin to drop for the Heat, and it seems like that's been the entire narrative for the team. And we'll see. I mean, if they hang on and still in first place, they're still going to get that hate. So
it just makes no sense. We should be the most likable team, because we have a bunch of no names on that roster.
And it'll
Jimmy Butler.
It'll be even sweeter once, like, the Heat are in the playoffs, and then hopefully they do finish out first in the Eastern Conference heading into it. And then you got the Lakers, who are playing in the play round against the Clippers, and then they lose that game. I'm hoping that happens. That's kind of the scenario they want.
We're the best bubble team. I hate that. Side note: Gonzaga just lost to Arkansas, so bubbles be busted.
Oh,
Gonzaga is like they never win shit. They're always like a number one team coming into it, and somewhere along the way they always screw it up.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
All right, this is a good transition.
Black Rivers.
Good transition into the Sweet 16. So Gonzaga's out, but the St. Peter's Peacocks.
We just love them because they're peacocks. I did not know that was their mascot name.
You didn't know they were peacocks?
No. This is like the first time I've seen the tourney. I've actually been so out of March Madness the last 2 years since COVID hit. Like last year, I was like, Baylor? What?
Dude.
And I watched that game, but it was a blowout.
No.
I'm only invested now because the U might be there. I'm like, what? Jim Larinaga? We haven't fired you yet?
Why would they fire him? He's a good coach.
It's not that he's a bad coach, it's the recruiting. Because you got to remember,
but he's in the ACC. It's hard.
I know it's hard, but like the good thing about this is you had Roy retire, and then now you have Krzyzewski retire, so Larinaga can steal all that. Yeah, we have produced NFL starters and Bruce Brown.
UVA fell off.
And Lonnie Walker.
Yeah, so the ACC should be slightly more open now with things, and hopefully, regardless. Anyway, then the fucking Seminoles lost in the first four. But man, the Peacocks, they beat Kentucky.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God. No one can. Can we just agree that Bill Calipari is like the Urban Meyer of not Bill Calipari, Calipari, Coach Cal.
Yeah, John Calipari. Here we go.
John Cal, because I was thinking Kansas for a second with Bill Self, but Bill Self's okay. But we can say Calipari is like the Urban Meyer of NCAA coaching for basketball because he's had
Is it him or is it Rick Pitino?
No. Pitino's his own damn level because Pitino ain't ever getting hired again. Remember, so the knock on Urban was, doesn't draft credible people, doesn't do his background, stuff like that, doesn't hire credible people, issues with colleges. What was Calipari? Calipari had investigations when he was at Providence and in Memphis.
Yeah, tampering and all that stuff.
And all that stuff. So I'm just like, that's why I make that thing. Rick Pitino, I don't have a coach in mind in the NFL associated with it, but it's some heavy shit.
Yeah.
I want to say it's like John Gruden, but
I guess, just them beating Kentucky, and then they beat Murray State, which was also located in Kentucky. So now St. Peter's owns the state of Kentucky in basketball. They're from Jersey City, New Jersey. I love their coach who used to play for St. John's, right? Or was it St. John's or Seton Hall? One of those. What's his name?
Seton Hall.
Yeah, Shaheem Holloway. That's their head coach, and just the attitude that he's carrying with his team, especially like after they beat Kentucky. And it's like, were you nervous at all? It's like, why would I be nervous? It's basketball. And do you think these guys are scared? These guys are from like New York and New Jersey. They're not scared of anything. Like just like that entire attitude that he's carrying the team with. It's just amazing. And they're a small, commuter college that had to win their conference in order to get into the tournament, and they're the current Cinderella darling right now, and they're the Peacocks. Just beautiful, amazing. I'm loving it. So, but yeah, so them, and I marked here the Miami Hurricanes because they themselves are upsetting teams, heading into this. Okay. And gosh, man, this is running late, and I'm not going to be able to talk about that, nor that. Okay, how do you guys want to go from here? Because
let's just go to the cage. Let's wrap this thing up.
All righty. So we'll leave our food discussions for next time, Andrew.
Yeah, and the cage is going to be very. The cage is going to be very limited because I don't want to compromise the WrestleMania picks because the problem is they're still developing the card to fully set into it. So welcome everybody to your weekly TruePlex, The Cage with Charles. Full reminder, wrestling is not fake. It is scripted. It is a stage fight. It is a song and dance, poetry, emotion, despite the fact that people want to say it's ballet. All hell on earth during this time of the year because y'all don't know the sacrifices that I have to give to you next week. My fucking Christ. It's going to be a lot of wrestling, right? Because what's wrestling about? Chasing championships, establishing legacy, being the holy hell out of each other, trying to mean something in this little world, trying to entertain you folks. I understand what it means to be a pro wrestler because I run a podcast show with my buddies. I don't even run that. I'm like Jimmy Hart. I'm just the mouth and you guys are the performers. And we're just trying to get your emotions. We're trying to get your cheers and we're trying to get your jeers. And we want to be so good that you throw like beer at us and I still slick my hair back like Scott Hall. May he rest in peace. Boys, damn, there's so much wrestling going to be next week. Next week is going to be tough, and I caption it because next week we have Monday Night Raw Go Home Show. We have NXT Go Home Show because they're going to do Stand and Deliver on night one of WrestleMania. We got stuff for Impact that I don't watch, but I'll be on that Twitter feed. We got Dynamite that's going on. Then we got Friday Night SmackDown, which I'll skip on. And then we have WrestleMania Saturday, which will have NXT Stand and Deliver. So they're doing their pay-per-view that day. The only match I believe that I have full confirmation of is NXT champion Dolph Ziggler versus Braun Breaker. Remember, Braun Breaker was champion, and then he lost in a triple threat match because Dolph pinned Ciampa. Well, now he gets his chance to go in front of a 20, 30,000 capacity crowd to show what he's worth. Why does this matter? Maybe he gets more people to watch NXT. Why does it matter too? That's basically Braun Breaker's big reveal to get called up to the main roster at some point down the line, right? So it's just so much wrestling. It's just so much because that's night one of WrestleMania. And then we have night two of WrestleMania. And boy, howdy, that's going to be a doozy as it is, fellas. I tell you. Let's catch up what we can because it's a Thursday night show, right? So I can talk to you about Monday. I can talk to you about NXT. I can talk to you about AEW, and I'll do it in small snippets. Monday, I'm getting excited, boys, because even though I think the WrestleMania card is still a little subpar, I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited for Kevin Owens and Steve Austin. Did you guys watch the clips I sent you? It's really doing that good old kind of heel stuff that's coming in, right? I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Do you guys like Steve Austin? Let me ask that. Andrew, you're back in the old days? You like Steve Austin? You like Stone Cold?
Hell yeah.
All right, give me a hell yeah. Even Francisco knows. We know him for the middle finger. In high school and in middle school, WWE taught you three things. It taught you the suck it sign that DX did. It taught you the eye roll that the Undertaker did. And it taught you the middle finger, give me a hell yeah, or a what chant that Stone Cold Steve Austin gave us. Big, important stuff coming into it. Owens doing some good work, getting you hyped up. Another person who's getting you kind of hyped up too is Seth Rollins. His whole goal right now is he needs a match at WrestleMania. What's the big rumor? Cody Rhodes should be premiering either at WrestleMania or returning at WrestleMania or the night after WrestleMania. But Seth Rollins is working everything. He's had multiple chances to kind of get back into the swing of things. But, he can't find a match for WrestleMania. He tried to steal Kevin Owens' spot against Steve Austin. Didn't work. He tried to steal AJ Styles' spot against Edge. That didn't work. He's saying next Monday at the Go Home show, if I don't have a WrestleMania opponent going on, I will sabotage everything out of it, which would probably call Cody Rhodes into it. There's some rumors that their match is going to have implications to challenge whoever the unified champion is at WrestleMania Backlash in the following month. But, let's not go too far. Charles has quibs on that. Also still excited for AJ Edge. You know how AJ Edge is going to be even better? Because Edge is a full heel turn, Andrew. They changed his music. It's no longer Metalingus by Alter Bridge. It's still Alter Bridge. I think the song is called On the Other Side, but now we have Evil Edge, who's like in blue light. So Charles, I've been pushing AJ Edge for like 5 months now, right? Seriously, I started that in November. Like, if I don't get this, we're revolting. I won't watch WrestleMania. I was dead ass serious. But Vince is like, no. You my best. You mine. You're going to go watch it. I'm like, oh, word? He's like, you're going to watch it on that new OLED C1 television, buddy. I'm like, oh, word? Because part of the reason why I can't do predictions yet is they keep changing the cards on the nights that's going to happen. One day, AJ Edge is going to be on a Sunday, so night 2. Now it's going to be on night 1. I need full confirmation so I can hype up people. But AJ Edge is working because AJ was going against Seth Rollins. Whoever was going to win that would go against Edge. Edge interfered and hit AJ with the chair. Like, nah, you my punk now. I'm about this, guys. Like, I'm so ready for it. The women's matches are getting more interesting. All this other stuff will go on in there. But that was happening on Raw. And, of course, Roman Reigns and Brock. I sent you guys the video link. I sometimes, I oversee a little bit of my program. I sometimes have to channel the Roman Reigns mentality because being a lawyer, being a professional, being anything really in this world, you can never be fully you. So you have to take certain kind of aspirations. But Roman as the tribal chief has been kind of like monikers I have going and working as an attorney, also working out. So, I carry that whole like tribal chief mentality persona. It's great in my head, even though I'm not as like terrible of a human being as he is in the show. We love Roman Reigns in real life. Follow us, Roman, on Twitter. Charles the True, Dan Frijoles, FJOJR, Sports Goofs, all that stuff. But it's the mantras. He's a needle mover. Acknowledge me. He's the tribal chief. When you prep for the 10, the 12, oh, I'm sorry. When you prep for the 12, the 10 comes easy. In that video I sent you, when he went and said that the gym's the only, he's like, I love going to the gym. The gym's the only thing that doesn't acknowledge me. The weight will tell you what you can move. It won't lie to you. I'm like, oh, that's that hardcore mentality I love, which works because Brock Lesnar is a beast and they have built him as a beast. They have literally built him as a monster who has beat everybody.
Beefy.
So if you have one guy saying we're going to prep it up to be the end all be all, the other guy saying I'm prepared for the end all be all, I need this to be a stipulated match, Vince. I need this to be a first blood match or like a Hell in a Cell. If you give me a basic 1, 2, 3 match, I will definitely cancel Peacock for a bit because you dropped the ball. So that was on Raw. They did a few things. NXT, they're prepping some stuff. They changed the women's match now from Cora Jade and Mandy Rose now being a fatal four-way of Cora Jade, Mandy Rose, Kaylee Ray, and Io Shirai at Stand and Deliver. They're doing that because Kaylee Ray and Io Shirai won the Dusty Women's Cup Classic, so they cash in the opportunity of the title shot, so that's fine. Instead of going against the tag titles, they can cash in a title shot for the singles titles. I don't know. Fine. I kind of don't mind what NXT 2.0 is doing, but then I'm just kind of like, meh, to other things. Dynamite. Did you guys watch the MJF promo? Can I just say on the show right now?
Let me look at the group chat real quick so I can remember.
Yeah, I sent it probably we were on the thing. I said he's the best heel promo in the game right now. Maxwell Jacob Freeman is the best.
Yeah, he doesn't break. Was it kayfabe? Is that what it is? Yeah,
he doesn't break kayfabe, but it's the insults that he says. So I'm gonna give it to you verbatim, and it might offend some people who's listening, but I don't care because it's not my words. This is like what I tell the judges when I'm saying curse words that the other side said. So they're in Texas and he split from Wardlow, or Wardlow betrayed him at the pay-per-view that just happened in Revolution and all that stuff. And the whole thing is that Wardlow works for MJF. So he's like, you made a deal with the devil and devil is ironclad. And the crowd is shouting, Jesus. They're saying Jesus. This is Texas here. Come on, man. So they're saying Jesus, Jesus. And he goes, he's like, oh, he goes and says, Jesus, I'll strap
oh my god,
like it was done to Jesus. And I was like,
I just listened to it.
I love it though. Because like you got to understand, this is a carny world, so the heels aren't supposed to be liked. So you're supposed to hate certain things. And if you have the ball, he's the one who called Darby Allin
looking
a school
straight
shooter.
into the camera.
Yeah. So stuff like that works. People might get offended from it, but good, because he's the bad guy. So you should want to see him get his comeuppance, right? I love it because I just think it's good promo work, but it's easier like heels in wrestling than faces, because not every face is going to be like an Undertaker or a Stone Cold Steve Austin where it comes naturally, right? But seriously, when he said that line, because he called Darby Allin a school shooter when they were feuding around Full Gear, and I was like, oof, that's rough to kind of go from like Darby Allin does like face fan stuff like that. But then when he just goes and says, Wardlow, I'll put you on the cross like Jesus and whip you, I'm like, whoo. I was like, whoo, but I love it. I love it. But he's great. I do think the prediction that I'm going to make is happening, so I'll put it now, even though it's laying there. You know, CM Punk is who beat MJF at the last pay-per-view. He's coming for the AEW championship. MJF and CM Punk.
He's Jewish too?
Styles. Yeah. He's the one. I think I sent you the emotional promo where he was using his background, CM Punk saying that he was being called derogatory slurs about his religion, everything like that, as a motivator. It played head games into CM Punk's way. The way he works on these promos, because here's the difference between AEW and WWE. WWE is heavily scripted with all these writers, and they write your promos majority of the time, and they only give leeway to certain people. AEW is like unscripted for the most part of how you do your promos.
So it's a little improv.
Well, it's improv, but it's more or less you don't have anybody controlling what you should say. So you can at least be natural and flow. And it works better for some people. Some people are just going to suck on the mic forever, but they can be performers. But I think this is going to lead a row where, you know, CM Punk is going to beat Hangman, and then Punk will lose to MJF on their third match, and that will establish MJF as your, you know, total champion, as your AEW World Heavyweight Champion. That's why I just see the South Park thing. Yeah, that's hysterical. Yeah. But it's about getting that good heat. Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, John Moxley, and William Regal are now part of the Blackpool Combat Club. Okay, whatever. I'm sick of stables. Let's just break them all up, refurbish some stuff now. Adam Cole still feuding with Hangman. I don't know why, because he lost clean. We'll figure that out. Double or Nothing is in May. That's their next pay-per-view. Maybe I have to spread that a little bit. SmackDown, we're hopefully going to hype up Roman Reigns. New Japan's doing some stuff, doing the tournaments. Zack Sabre, I think is going to win. I'm back on my good traction, boys. I'm back on my good tractions. But I encourage everybody, you want to see good heel work for AEW? Go ahead and watch MJF's promo. You want to see some amazing promo that seeing Roman Reigns improvement, watch his little promo about acknowledgement at the gym. I got a little chub out of it. It was great. I don't want to miss anything. We're going to keep it short. That's it, because I will do a predictions when I have the full card, either on a Twitter feed with Francisco's work, a voice note, what have you. But the whole thing's not fully stacked yet. And I feel that I would be doing a disservice if I gave the biggest wrestling pay-per-view for WWE in a very non-predictive stance, even though it's next week. There's 4 episodes of wrestling that has to happen, because you still have that SmackDown, that Raw, that other SmackDown, and that little bit of NXT, because they are going to joint it. And I got to give you guys predictions. And then when Revolution already passed, but when Double or Nothing comes out, AEW will get that love too, right? So enjoy yourselves. That's all I got for you this week on the Cage.
All right, so that was quick. And yeah, guys, I do have, I'm just gonna some ending notes here. So I am working on some stuff. I'm making I'm just gonna announce it here. I'm trying to upload a separate version of the podcast that just entails Charles's Cage segments.
Oh,
so that's and I've already got some already uploaded. So it's just called The Cage with Charles if you want to look that up on the podcast apps out there. Okay, so there's a few already up. But I have to go back into the back catalog and try and figure that out. Also, our TikTok is going to become a lot more involved, because how do you do, fellow kids? Because I have posted some stuff on TikTok, but I haven't really paid attention to it, and a little bit more on Instagram. But the TikTok seems to be where the kids like to hang out. Ooh, that does not sound good out of context, but but the beautiful thing is that we could put poll topics on there, and we do have some answers to some stuff that we are wondering about, and I'm posting clips, especially our non-sponsored segments, and we talk about some stuff. So like I put one of Outback Steakhouse, if people like it or not. It's 60-40 right now on that poll topic.
Those 40% people also like steak and shake fries.
And then I asked about the Winnie's Hot Honey Chicken Sandwich, whether people liked it or not. We got a 67-33% split on that one. So there's that. Then whether vegan food makes you violently angry like it does Charles.
Very angry.
And we've got a yes at 33% and no at 67%. Whether people have heard about Cracklin Oat brand cereal. And Andrew is on to something, because there's 57% of people that say yes, they've heard of this cereal. So Andrew has been vindicated.
Now I just need to bring a box to you, or you need to get a box.
Well, I guess like you said, why they sell it at Walmart. So
correct.
I guess that's where a lot of people have seen it, and thus I don't shop at Walmart very much. And that's probably why, or Sam's Club, because Sam's Club is Walmart, right? So,
well, yes, but they don't sell it there.
Oh, interesting. And then whether people liked Assassin's Creed Odyssey, that's an old question I posted back then. 61% on that one. And then whether people love Taco Bell, that's an 85% yes on that one. So then
who the hell are those 50? I know who that 50% is. It's gonna be swinging.
Whether people have a battle station or a man or a woman cave, that's 47% of people said yes. The other 53% said no, which is understandable. Not everybody has a space to put all their gaming stuff. Charles just got Ramona, so he's got his thing. Or you mean
Ramona found me?
Whether people liked Sea of Thieves or have at least played it, so that's 63% said yes. Whether they played MGS5. 59% on that one is a yes. Does anything beat breaking a new controller in? And 54% said no. So there you go. Whether people are hyped for Splatoon 3, 93% said yes on that one. So, hell yeah.
Those people need to follow us to play with us, please.
Yeah. Whether people own Raycon headphones, and 94% of people said no. So,
sorry, Andrew.
Sorry, Raycon, if you want to sponsor us, we'll jack those things up. No, Andrew
We did that for the Astros.
Andrew
man.
you got Skullhead headphones, right?
Yeah.
Andrew? Yeah.
Hold on.
Who did Raycon? Are they just randomly?
No, we randomly mentioned it as a joke, much like all our other sponsorships. Whether people like toppings on their pancakes or not. 19% said yes. What? 81% said no. They don't want toppings on their pancakes.
Wait. That's not including syrup, right?
I didn't really specify. I don't know who eats pancakes clean with nothing on it.
Vegans and bodybuilders.
So there's that. And I'm trying to find some other ones here. Whether people like Best Buy, 65% said yes on that one. And let's see, are there any more poll topics? I think that's it for the poll topics for the most part, but it's been really good. We get at least 100 people to vote on certain topics, so that gives us a nice sample size to gauge whether our opinions are right or not, or to see whether people are wrong about their own opinions. So I'm gonna try and post more on that. Yeah, so that's kind of the things in the works in the background. And we'll be probably back in like 3 or 4 weeks, like we normally are. So, and by that point, I would hope that me and Andrew can get together and get some food, and he'll have more broadened for horizons by then. I hope I would have a box of Cracklin' Oat Bran as well, so I can get that out of the way and give a full review of that. And yeah, and Charles will
horizons by the time we get back to it.
Yeah, lots of gaming opinions as well because we're gonna have Kirby. I think I'll buy it tomorrow. All right,
I'm getting it for free because of my gift certificates from Ramona. She's the gift that keeps on giving.
Anything more, guys, before we head out?
No.
All right.
I love you, Ramona.
Okay, guys. See ya.
Have a good night.
Take care.